Chapter 9:15. Although Ce said that, in reality, he was thinking in his heart, if something like this happens again, I'll make her my woman. Someone else wanted to lay their hands on my woman? And they wanted to leave this place alive? Dream on. He couldn't stand it when he saw Zhang Qingrui trying to touch Yun Jian. He didn't want anyone to see her beauty. She could only be his. And he couldn't share her with anyone else. Not a chance. Yun Jian was nestled in Ce's arms. Her head was just enough to reach Ce's chin. However, if someone saw the scene of Yun Jian nestled in Ce's arms, they wouldn't think that the difference in height between Yun Jian and Ce was strange. On the contrary, although the difference in height between the two was huge, it gave off a feeling that they were a perfect match. Nestled in Ce's arms and enjoying his unique fresh scent, Yun Jian raised her head to look at him. She asked a question that she knew the answer to in order to ease the awkwardness. Why are you here? However, before Yun Jian could finish her question, Ce had already bent down slightly. His tall figure bent down and covered Yun Jian's mouth faster than lightning. They tossed and turned, and it was extremely ambiguous. Phew, it feels so good after taking a dump. At this moment, an auntie ran out of the restroom near the plaza. Because the auntie was in a hurry to go back to square dance with her friends, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to keep up with the pace. Therefore, when she saw a small path here, she quickly ran over. Just as the auntie ran into the thicket, she suddenly saw two figures with their lips intertwined. Moreover, she also saw that the relatively tall figure, even in the darkness, could recognize that it was a man. At this moment, this figure's hand was slowly moving down the girl's back. Oh my God! The middle-aged woman saw this shocking scene as soon as she slipped into the bushes. She was not mentally prepared at all, so she jumped and yelled out. Upon hearing the commotion, Ce glanced sideways at the middle-aged woman. After a few glances, Ce shifted his gaze and continued to look at Yun Jian with his lips pressed against hers. Of course, being watched by the woman, Ce loosened his grip after a couple more kisses and straightened his back. At the same time, he pulled Yun Jian into his embrace. The middle-aged woman was stunned when she saw this. After she recovered from her shock, the corners of her mouth twitched. She couldn't help but point at Ce. Young man, don't be impetuous. Forcing a young lady like this in a place like this. Sigh. Young man, you have to be responsible for this little girl. Young people like you, don't turn your back on us after you get a little girl pregnant. The middle-aged woman seemed to have misunderstood something. As she spoke, she waved her hand exaggeratedly. The middle-aged woman's old face was a mess. As she spoke, she seemed to have thought of something that was difficult to speak of, and then ran away like a wisp of smoke. Ce, who was still hugging Yun Jian's slender waist, also twitched the corners of his mouth. He had been misunderstood. However, if they weren't in the bushes in the public square, if they weren't here, he might have already done as the middle-aged woman said. Yun Jian was nestled in Ce's embrace. Although she didn't see the middle-aged woman's actions, she could still hear her words. In an instant, her face was as red as blood. Fortunately, it was pitch black here. Only the streetlights in the distance shone on them. Chapter 9:16. By the time Yun Jian and Ce came out of the bushes, Yun Jian's emotions had already calmed down quite a bit. At the very least, that alluring flush had disappeared without a trace. However, her heart was still pounding, and her little hand was held by Ce. Master! The moment they saw Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian quickly went up to her. With Zhang Xiaofeng in the lead, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian quickly stood in front of Yun Jian. Grandmaster, where did you guys go? Zhang Jian's chubby body looked quite cute. Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing beside Zhang Jian, couldn't help but reach out to rub Zhang Jian's head. We didn't go far, Yun Jian said naturally. Oh, Zhang Jian nodded obediently. Master, do you want to go to Cinny's house with us later? Zhang Xiaofeng asked again. The few of them had dinner at Chen Cinny's house, but after dinner, they went out for a stroll. Ling Yichen had promised Chen Cinny to bring her 10 sticks of candied haws, and he wouldn't go back on his word. Ling Yichen wasn't here at the moment. He had gone to buy the candied haws. Let's go, Yun Jian nodded. Actually, when they came out, Chun Sini had repeatedly reminded Yun Jian to go back with Zhang Xiaofeng and the other two to visit her before going home. Chun Sini couldn't come out to play, but Chun Sini really wanted to come out. However, her current injuries prevented Chun Sini from doing so. Yun Jian had promised Chun Sini that she would go back to accompany Chun Sini before going home. Moreover, Yun Jian didn't have anything important to do at home. Good. Sini will definitely be very happy. Zhang Xiaofeng quickly said such a sentence. Coming. We've bought the candied haws. We can go back now. Ling Yichen ran back from afar with dozens of sticks of candied haws in his hands. Haha, thank you for your hard work. Zhang Xiaofeng quickly took a few skewers from Ling Yichen. Each of you can have one skewer. Leave the rest for Sini to bring back. Ling Yichen had bought quite a lot of candied haws, so he had bought some for Chun Sini, as well as some for the few of them to eat together. Hee you brat, how did you become so good now? What? Could it be that he had found his conscience? Haha. Zhang Xiaofeng said as he distributed a stick of candied haws to everyone. Then he held the stick in his hand and licked it. Ce took the stick of candied haws she got, and quietly passed it to Yun Jian. I don't eat sweets. You have it. Yun Jian quite likes sweets. When she heard Ce say this, she glared at Ce and thought to herself, you said you don't eat sweets. Then why did it seem like all the sweets I've eaten before have been snatched by Ce? Hee. Oh right, I heard something interesting just now. Ling Yichen pretended to be mysterious and kept them in suspense. At this moment, Yun Jian had already stuffed the candied haws into her mouth. What is it? Tell us about it and make us happy. Zhang Xiaofeng immediately became interested. Of course, he walked over and put his arm around Ling Yichen's shoulder, wanting him to tell him. Yun Jian's eyelids twitched slightly. Hee. I was buying candied haws just now when I overheard an auntie talking to someone on the side of the road. It seems like in a small bush nearby. There's a young couple doing it in the wild. Ling Yichen kept them in suspense, and then said with interest. Chapter 917. Yun Jian had just stuffed a piece of candied fruit into her mouth. The candied fruit had not even melted in her mouth yet, so when she heard Ling Yichen's words, she spat it out without a care for her image. The piece of candied fruit that came out of Yun Jian's mouth rolled far away, and even slid into the sewers. Ce stood beside Yun Jian, and stroked Yun Jian's back without a change in expression, patting her gently to prevent her from choking. Oh my god, Yun Jian, what's wrong with you? Why are you reacting so strongly? Was what I said really that shocking? Haha, even you are so shocked. Ling Yichen guffawed, thinking that what he said had shocked even Yun Jian. After Ling Yichen was done laughing, he still did not know what he said had made Yun Jian choke. He sighed with increasing impudence. But young people nowadays really don't know how to be flirtatious. They're so brazen. Yeah, I really want to see it for myself, haha. Zhang Xiaofeng chimed in, as if he did not care about his life. Huh. Zhang Jian also guffawed. Then, as if nothing had happened, he stuffed the candied fruit into his mouth and chewed slowly. It's okay. When Yun Jian caught her breath and turned to say this to Ce let go of her hand that was patting her back. Hey, it was that auntie who told me about the young couple having sex in the open. Yun Jian, since you're so interested, I'll call her over for you. Ling Yichen saw a figure. As he spoke, he waved in that direction and walked over quickly. Ling Yichen's reaction speed was faster than anyone else's. Before Yun Jian could stop him, Ling Yichen had already run over to that auntie. Auntie, hello auntie. In order to express goodwill, it was normal to address people 2 times older than oneself as auntie. Ling Yichen's mouth was very sweet. He did not call the other party auntie when he rushed up. Instead, he called the woman auntie. Yun Jian watched as Ling Yichen ran towards the woman. She almost took out her butterfly knife and swung it at Ling Yichen. Of course, this was just Yun Jian's idea. She naturally wouldn't do it. It was at this moment that Ling Yichen stopped the middle-aged woman from earlier. He lowered his head to look at the middle-aged woman, who was about 20 centimeters shorter than him. Auntie, I just heard that you saw a young couple in the nearby bushes. They were having sex. It's like this. My friend is very interested in this matter. So can I trouble you to tell me more about it? Ling Yichen had no sense of shame at all. At least, when Ling Yichen asked these questions, he did not think it was overboard at all. However, Ling Yichen's question startled the middle-aged woman. After all, the auntie had secretly said it to her friend. How could someone else have heard it? However, just hearing Ling Yichen call her auntie made the woman feel a few years younger. She immediately agreed to Ling Yichen's request. Look, my friend is over there. Ling Yichen shamelessly pointed in the direction of Yun Jian and Ce. The middle-aged woman casually turned her head and looked over. In the end, when she saw Yun Jian and Ce standing not too far away, she exclaimed in shock. You too. Chapter 9:18. The bushes were so dark that they couldn't even see their fingers in front of them, but they could still make out their silhouettes. There were lights nearby, so even though they couldn't see the person's face clearly, they could roughly make out their height and figure. The auntie had rushed out from the bushes because she had seen something that made her feel shy and awkward. The auntie had almost died from embarrassment when she saw what had happened. Now that she saw Yun Jian and Ce, she immediately matched Yun Jian and Ce with the couple in the bushes. However, when she saw Yun Jian and Ce's faces clearly, the auntie paused. After all, the lights in the bushes were very dark, so the auntie didn't dare to see clearly. Other than Yun Jian and Ce's silhouettes, she didn't see anything else clearly. Naturally, she couldn't come to a conclusion. Auntie, what's wrong? Ling Yichen asked in confusion as he watched the auntie look at Yun Jian and Ce. However, just as Ling Yichen said that, the auntie suddenly waved her hand and comforted herself. No, I probably hit the wrong number. My eyes are blurry because I'm old. I'm old and I can't see clearly. The auntie then turned her gaze to Yun Jian and Ce. She looked at Yun Jian and Ce and asked, Young lady, young man, are you the ones who wanted to hear about what happened just now? Yun Jian's lips twitched, but she couldn't hide it, so she could only nod in tacit agreement. Only then did the auntie start talking nonstop. Tisk, speaking of that couple, at that time, I had just come out of the washroom after relieving myself. I wanted to hurry back to dance, but then I saw that couple hugging in the bushes. The auntie was very intoxicated as she spoke. Yun Jian's face had already stiffened. Ling Yichen and Zhang Xiaofeng even used exaggerated words like, oh, to express their shock. Hearing how Ling Yichen and Zhang Xiaofeng cooperated with her, the auntie became more and more agreeable. Hey, you guys weren't there so you don't know. At that time, the man put his hand on the woman's butt. Tell me, isn't that a field battle? The auntie was quite fashionable. As she spoke, she even laughed twice. Ahem. Yun Jian couldn't help but cough when the woman said this. Auntie, are you in a hurry to go dancing? Yun Jian noticed this and turned to look at the auntie. At this moment, the auntie suddenly remembered that she had been so busy talking about this that she had forgotten to square dance with everyone. That was a new dance that she had just learned. She had already wasted a lot of time going to the toilet. If she didn't catch up now, how would she be able to learn it? Hey, look at my memory. When one gets old, one's memory deteriorates. Hey, you guys have fun first. Auntie is going to dance. With that, the auntie waved at everyone present, and then left the place very energetically. After that, only Ling Yichen, Zhang Xiaofeng, and a few others were left behind. They were intoxicated by the auntie's words, but their train of thought had suddenly been cut off. Ha, looks like it really was a field battle. When did people become so daring these days? Big news, haha, big news. I'm going to tell Cindy tonight when I get back. Tomorrow I'll tell the whole school about this. Ling Yichen was so excited that it seemed like he couldn't wait to let the whole world know about this. Chapter 9:19. Ling Yichen's agitated emotions instantly vanished. He had no idea what he had done to upset Yun Jian, so he was stunned. When he came back to his senses, Ling Yichen asked Yun Jian, No, Yun Jian, why can't I say it? Don't say it if I tell you not to. Yun Jian only glanced at Ling Yichen, then turned to leave. After Yun Jian left, Ce naturally followed. When Zhang Xiaofeng saw this, he grinned and nudged Ling Yichen, then ran over to Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng ran over to Yun Jian, and so did Zhang Jian. Ling Yichen did not follow them immediately. He stood where he was with a bunch of candied haws in his hands. Frowning, he could not help but complain to himself. Did I say something wrong? After saying that, Ling Yichen thought seriously for a while, then continued to talk to himself. I don't think I said anything wrong. Didn't I say that I wanted to tell Cindy and the other students in school about this? The two of them aren't the main characters in this matter. Why didn't Yun Jian let me say it? When he thought up to this point, Ling Yichen saw that Yun Jian and the others had already walked far away, so he stopped thinking. Who cares? Since Yun Jian said that he couldn't say it, then he wouldn't say it. After thinking it through, Ling Yichen shouted, "Wait for me, you guys." After that, Ling Yichen sped over to where Yun Jian and the others were. The few of them went back to Chen Sini's house in a hubbub. When they reached Chen Sini's house, they realized that Ji Shasha and the others had already returned. Chen Sini's father, Chen Jinchuan, was treating them today because Chen Sini had just been discharged from the hospital. The people Chen Jinchuan invited were basically his business friends. As for Ji Shasha and the others, they were the children of Chen Jinchuan's business friends. Therefore, even if Ji Shasha and the others wanted to go home, they had to go to Chen Sini's house first, before going home with their parents. Ji Shasha and the others went to Chen Sini's house first. Yun Jian and the others had not returned yet. However, as soon as Ji Shasha and the others returned to Chen Sini's house, Ji Shasha saw Zhang Chengrui's parents, whom Emo-san had taken out to feed the dog. Shasha, you're back? Why didn't my Ruirui come back with you? Zhang Chengrui's mother looked around and asked suspiciously. Ji Shasha was afraid of what had happened before, so she took a few deep breaths. But when she thought of the scene just now, Ji Shasha was so scared that she didn't dare to tell the truth. Zhang Chungrui seemed to have said that he couldn't stay here any longer, so he went home first. We didn't pay much attention to him just now. This was the confession that Ji Shasha had negotiated with a group of classmates. As long as they insisted that Zhang Chungrui had gone home first, then even if Zhang Chungrui went missing, they wouldn't be blamed. This brat, he actually ran home by himself again, Zhang Chungrui's mother said through gritted teeth. Then, she smiled at Ji Shasha and said, Shasha, thank you for telling me. This brat, I'll give him a good beating when I get back. As she said that, Zhang Chungrui's mother pretended to be angry. Ji Shasha smiled guiltily at Zhang Chungrui's mother. At this moment the door was opened again. With Yin Jian and Ce leading the way, Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Zhang Jian behind, the five of them walked in from the door. When Ji Shasha and the others saw Yun Jian and the others, they trembled violently. Chapter 920. Chen Sini ran down the stairs as fast as she could. Downstairs, Chen Jinchuan was still chatting with a group of friends in the business field. Haha, Sini, look. Zhang Xiaofeng carried the teddy bear all the way back, wanting to show it off to Chen Sini. In the end, just as Zhang Xiaofeng showed the teddy bear, Chen Sini bypassed him and went to Ling Yichen. Wow, did you really buy 10 sticks of candied haws for me? That's great. I'm so happy. Chen Sini grabbed the sticks of candied haws from Ling Yichen excitedly. It was not hard to tell from her expression that she was overjoyed. Holding the teddy bear, Zhang Xiaofeng watched as Chen Sini picked up a bunch of candied haws and peeled off one of the sticks excitedly to munch on it. She had only eaten one when Chen Sini suddenly turned to look at Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian, Jian, do you want some? I've eaten. Yun Jian smiled faintly. Then I'll eat. Chen Sini said and shook the stick of candied haws in her hand before swallowing them one bite at a time. The corner of Zhang Xiaofeng's mouth twitched. Was he completely ignored? After that, Zhang Xiaofeng continued wisely in order to regain his sense of presence on Chen Sini's side. Yun Jian threw the teddy bear back to you with the darts just now. Jian's amazing. Give it to me, give it to me. Chen Sini exclaimed and took the candied haw she was eating out of her mouth, before dashing over to snatch the teddy bear from Zhang Xiaofeng's arms. My Jian is amazing. Chen Sini praised loudly as she spoke. Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing aside, wanted to cry but had no tears. Why was his presence so insignificant in front of Chen Sini? You're all back? Come and have some fruits. Sini, ask your friends to come and have some. The fruits I just cut are fresh. Xia came out of the kitchen with a big plate of pineapples and freshly washed strawberries when she saw that Yunjian and the rest were back. Okay. Chen Sini answered and led Yunjian and the rest over. Other than Yunjian and her friend's share, Xia had prepared everything. Not only did she have to entertain Yunjian and her friends, but Chen Jinchuan's business friends as well. Jianjian, try this. These are natural strawberries my mom planted in the orchard. Chen Sini led the group over and picked up a big red strawberry for Yunjian as she spoke. Yunjian smiled with her lips pressed together, but accepted it. After that, Yunjian passed the strawberry to Ce. You eat it first. It was Yunjian who gave her the strawberry. She would eat it no matter how much she disliked Ce. Moreover, Ce liked fruits quite a lot. Hence, Ce took the strawberry from Yunjian. Jianjian, take it yourselves. Don't be shy. Chen Sini said loudly, and took a bite of the candied haws in her hand happily. I'm sorry, who are you looking for? You can't go in here. You. The voice of Chen Sini's security guard rang from outside the door. Not long after that, the door was opened. I'm going in to look for someone. I'll be right out. A pure American English voice rang out. The person who came in was tall and burly, standing over 1.9 meters tall. He spoke fluent English, and charged in regardless of the obstruction. The poor security guard could not even converse with the person, nor could he stop him. When Yunjian saw the person, however, there was a slight flicker in her eyes. Chapter 921. Yunjian was not surprised to see Corentin. There was no need to ask how Corentin knew she was here. Yunjian knew that it was a piece of cake for international bigwigs like him to find a specific address through a mobile phone. Yunjian had called Corentin back then. She did not tell him her exact address, only giving the address of country Z's, Zhe province's Longmen City. However, Yunjian knew that it was a piece of cake for Corentin to search for her exact location. Of course, the premise of all this was that Yunjian did not object to Corentin searching for her exact location. If Yunjian was unwilling, all she had to do was create an anti-hacking system to ensure that Corentin would not be able to find her. If Yunjian really did that, Corentin would not be able to find her even if he got the hackers on the national hacker ranking to do it. Where are you? Where are you? Come out. Corentin looked around and yelled at the top of his lungs in pure American English. S was Corentin's abbreviation for Yunjian's codename, an extract of SS. To Corentin, SS was abbreviated to S. However, with Corentin yelling and speaking in English, the security guard next to him was confused. He couldn't understand Corentin's words at all, but the security guard still held Corentin back and didn't let him in. Who is this? Why did he suddenly rush here? He's a foreigner, isn't he? Is he looking for someone? Wow, he's a foreigner. He looks really good. I wonder who knows this foreigner. Whoever knows him must be someone who's good at English too, right? A group of women gathered together and started chatting. However, what they said was the opinion of women. In the past, it was rare to see a foreigner, especially this group of ignorant women. Each of them stared at Corentin, as though they had seen something strange. In this era, or even earlier, if someone could go abroad and come back later, it was definitely something worth bragging about. Furthermore, these women didn't have much experience. All of them were people who had lived since the olden days. Therefore, when they saw Corentin, they were especially surprised. When Ji Shasha saw Corentin walk in, she immediately envied the person who knew Corentin. I wonder who this foreigner is looking for. Ji Shasha suddenly had the urge to flaunt her excellent English in front of everyone. Previously, she had heard that Yunjian was good at shooting. Later, she saw that Yunjian was so good at darts. Even her man was one of a kind. Needless to say, Ji Shasha almost died of envy. Ji Shasha's English was quite good, especially after hearing the foreigner speak a few sentences of pure American English. Ji Shasha was instantly full of confidence in herself. For a moment, Ji Shasha also wanted to show off her strength. Hello, who are you looking for? If you have any questions, I can help you. Ji Shasha walked over and asked Corentin in English in front of everyone. After that, she even winked and pretended to be cute. Wow, that's amazing. She can actually speak English? I wonder whose child she is. Yeah, she can even communicate with foreigners. That's amazing. Chapter 922. Ji Shasha's smile deepened when she heard the chattering praises of the women around her. This was exactly the effect she wanted. Ji Shasha felt very good about the fact that she could speak English while Yun Jian and the rest could only stand by and watch her foolishly. Finally, there was something she could use that was better than Yun Jian. This is my daughter, hee. Isn't it just a few sentences in English? My child had a tutor every day to learn English when she was young. She didn't study seriously when she was young, so I was quite worried. But now, her English is pretty good, and she can even communicate with foreigners. Oh hee. Looks like the child has to relax a little. She can learn by herself. One of the women with lipstick stains that resembled a chicken's, but looked at Ji Shasha, who was talking to Corentin. Her head was almost raised to the sky. This woman was Ji Shasha's mother. She usually liked to dress up gorgeously and pretend to be a rich madam. Now that her daughter Ji Shasha had grown eyes in front of so many people, how could Ji Shasha's mother not boast? When this group of rich madams gathered together, they liked to boast about where they bought their perfumes and bags from, and how they were more high-end than others. Now that they had children, there was no lack of women boasting. Ji Shasha's mother was a typical example. Ji Shasha was even more pleased with herself when she heard her mother's boasting. She looked at Corentin in front of her and waited for him to reply. Just as Ji Shasha was proudly raising her head and waiting for Corentin to reply to her to further show off her ability, a crisp and clear voice rang out. A crisp, bell-like female voice rang out. Old man, your skin has gotten thicker. Are you courting death? You speak English so fluently? These words were spoken in Chinese. When the people present suddenly heard such a crisp and beautiful female voice, they were all stunned. The most important thing was that this beautiful female voice was actually speaking in such a rude and vulgar tone. Even so, everyone present felt extremely comfortable when they heard it. Hearing this familiar tone, Corentin, who had ignored Ji Shasha just now, instantly turned his head. Ha, you really are here. At this moment, Corentin changed his emphasis on pure American English and spoke to Yun Jian in pure Mandarin. Corentin's Mandarin pronunciation was even more accurate than some of the native Z people's. When Corentin saw Yun Jian, he sprinted to her in quick strides. Ji Shasha, who was standing in place, was dumbfounded. The group of gossipy women and noble women around them were also dumbfounded. Ji Shasha's mother, in particular, felt as if she had been slapped in the face. She stood there dumbfounded. Corentin knew Yun Jian? But that was not the main point. Why did Corentin call Yun Jian S? Just as everyone present was filled with doubts, Yun Jian's voice rang out again. Is it fun to pretend that you can't speak Chinese? As she spoke, she raised her eyebrows slightly. Haha, it's not like that. Corentin was flustered by Yun Jian's stare. After a while he spoke humbly and childishly. A little. Corentin was a very playful old man. Corentin was not surprised by Yun Jian's appearance. After all, slaying God used a different human skin mask every time she met someone in her previous life. She had never shown her real face to anyone. Therefore, Corentin did not doubt this. Speaking of which, since you've called me here, does that mean you've agreed to take me in as your disciple? Corentin did not forget his purpose. He looked at Yun Jian expectantly and raised his voice. Upon hearing Corentin's words, everyone's eyes widened in shock. What? Did they hear wrongly? Chapter 923. Corentin could speak Chinese, but he had been communicating in English. This was a little trick he played with the people present. That was not all. Corentin was a foreigner after all. Moreover, he was an old man who was tall and strong. In the end, he actually wanted to be Yun Jian's disciple. What was so great about Yun Jian that made Corentin beg to be her disciple? Everyone present was puzzled. However, just when everyone present was confused about the situation, Yun Jian's voice sounded again. I need your help with something. Yun Jian casually stated her purpose. However, before Yun Jian could say what she needed his help with, Corentin agreed in an exaggerated manner. No problem. As long as you accept me as your disciple, I'll promise you anything. As he spoke, as if to show his sincerity, Corentin even patted his sturdy chest in an exaggerated manner and promised, I'll give you all the honor you want from me, Corentin. To Corentin, the most precious thing he had was all the honors he had received in his life. The title of the world's top mechanic, and so on. However, compared to being able to be Yun Jian's disciple, this was nothing at all. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. This is my master. How can you snatch my master from me? Zhang Xiaofeng could not hold it in anymore. Now that he heard Corentin saying that he wanted Yun Jian to accept him as her disciple, he immediately stood up to stop him. In fact, even if Zhang Xiaofeng did not stand up to stop him, Yun Jian would not accept Corentin as her disciple. There was no need to ask why. She would not accept him. However, as soon as Zhang Xiaofeng finished his sentence, a slightly plump middle-aged man dressed as a businessman stepped forward and asked Corentin in surprise. Mr. Corentin, what do you mean by Mr. Corentin? Corentin? Are you Mr. Corentin, the top mechanic in Country M, who once made international headlines, and was hailed as the world's most outstanding mechanic? Zhang Xiaofeng, who had just accused Corentin of trying to steal his master, was confused by the middle-aged man's words. Then, Zhang Xiaofeng suddenly reacted. He pointed at Corentin and stared at him in disbelief as he yelled, Hey Corentin! What you're Corentin? M Nation's most outstanding mechanic, Mr. Corentin? I heard that the original price of a sports car, that you've modified, can soar from a few million to tens of millions. You're Mr. Corentin. Zhang Xiaofeng knew a thing or two about this, so when he found out that Corentin was America's top mechanic, he couldn't help but exclaim. After coming back to his senses, Zhang Xiaofeng realized that he had just accused Corentin of stealing his master in front of everyone. He actually dared to challenge the famous mechanic, Mr. Corentin, who was once approached by the President of America. Zhang Xiaofeng shuddered at the thought of it. Then, Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't help but take 2 steps back. However, just as Zhang Xiaofeng took 2 steps back, Corentin suddenly stepped forward. Zhang Xiaofeng thought that Corentin was going to take revenge on him for yelling at him just now. He was so shocked that he twisted his ankle. Unexpectedly, Corentin rushed up first and grabbed Zhang Xiaofeng's hand passionately. Then, Corentin looked at Zhang Xiaofeng with an admiring gaze and asked loudly, You're S's disciple? I've never heard of S taking in a disciple. You're actually S's junior. Haha, please teach me how to become S's disciple. Corentin's excited look coupled with his exposed identity. Everyone present was stunned, especially Ji Shasha and the others. Their faces looked as if they had just eaten *T. Chapter 924. Seeing Corentin's actions, everyone present stood rooted to the ground in shock. Ji Shasha, who had wanted to use her ability to speak English to convince everyone present by talking to Corentin, was already dumbfounded. Who was Corentin? The plump middle-aged man dressed as a businessman, and Zhang Xiaofeng had already introduced him in detail. Even if one did not know Corentin's identity, one could roughly guess his identity. He was America's top mechanic, and had even made international headlines as the most outstanding mechanic in the world. Just based on the fact that Corentin had appeared in the headlines of international newspapers, he was definitely not a nobody. After all, someone who could appear on the headlines of international newspapers was definitely not an ordinary person. However, no one present could have imagined that Zhang Xiaofeng had just yelled at Corentin like that. What about Corentin? In order to become Yun Jian's disciple, Corentin actually used such a polite tone to greet Zhang Xiaofeng? Zhang Xiaofeng was shocked by Corentin's behavior. In the end, it was Corentin who held him up. Zhang Xiaofeng did not expect his master to have such great influence. Not only did Corentin not run over to beat him up after hearing his words, but he even begged him to teach him how to be Yun Jian's disciple. A top mechanic in the world actually wanted to be Yun Jian's disciple? Zhang Xiaofeng instantly felt that he had gained a lot of face. After he steadied himself, he even put his fist to his mouth and coughed softly. It was as though he was pretending to be a big shot. After that, Zhang Xiaofeng stood on his tiptoes and patted Corentin's shoulder, who was half a head taller than him. Then he taught him proudly. You don't know how much effort I put in to become her disciple. I've used all my trump cards. Otherwise, my master wouldn't have accepted me. Do you want to learn? If you want to learn, I'll. Zhang Xiaofeng keep bragging. I can't blow you away. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng was proudly bragging, Chen Sini walked over, jumped up, and smashed Zhang Xiaofeng's head hard. Awa! Zhang Xiaofeng roared after being hit in the head by Chen Sini. He's just spouting nonsense. Don't listen to him. Chen Sini said to Corentin as she pinched Zhang Xiaofeng's arm with a smile. Seeing Chen Sini treat Zhang Xiaofeng so rudely, Corentin was dumbfounded. He was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Yuzi people are so bold. Corentin forcefully swallowed the word rude back into his stomach. Corentin smiled at Chen Sini, before turning back to Yun Jian. Take me in. I'm very obedient. I'll even run errands for you. As he spoke, Corentin revealed a cute smile. You're an old man with half a foot in the coffin, yet you're still trying to act cute. It'll be strange if you don't scare people to death. The people around could not help but criticize him in their hearts. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. Just as she was about to say something, the sound of a sports car drifting to a stop outside the door was heard again. As the guard uncle had stopped Corentin from entering, and had chased him all the way here. There was no one guarding the door now. Now that they heard someone speeding in from outside the door, everyone present was stunned. Who's here again? Just as Yun Jian turned to the door, she saw a middle-aged man in a formal suit running into the house, looking rather down and out. After the middle-aged man ran in, he looked around and finally locked onto Chen Jinchuan. Under everyone's surprised gaze, he ran and knelt in front of Chen Jinchuan. Chapter 925. Just now, when they saw this man with a caliper running in from outside the house, the people present might have felt a little surprised. Who was this person? Why did he come here? No one knew him either, or someone would have called out to him the moment he entered. It was only when the man with the styled head rushed in and knelt before Chen Jinchuan, as he shouted those words, that the crowd suddenly recalled. Baiguang Model Agency was suddenly banned not long ago. As for why it was banned, it was said that Chen Jinchuan's daughter, Chen Sini, was almost tricked into taking a nude photo by Baiguang Model Agency's talent scout. Chen Sini was unwilling to do so, so these people tried to force her. In the end, Chen Sini was forced to commit suicide by smashing a vase to protect her innocence. It was said that she used the broken piece of the vase to cut open the pulse on her hand. If it were not for her friend who came to save her, Chen Sini would have been a cold corpse by now. As a father, how could Chen Jinchuan allow his daughter to be bullied like this? Today's banquet was held because Chen Sini had just been discharged from the hospital. In addition to what the man with the styled head said, it was not difficult for the crowd to figure out the cause and effect of the incident. The man with the styled head must be the director of Baiguang Model Agency, Qi Jinxing. Qi Jinxing founded Baiguang Model Agency single-handedly, but the crowd had heard quite a lot about him. Baiguang Model Agency was not clean to begin with. As the director of Baiguang Model Agency, Qi Jinxing must have infiltrated many female celebrities and models in the company. In spite of it, Baiguang Model Agency was quite successful. Not long ago, it was even named as the company with the most potential for development. In the end, it was because of Chen Sini's incident that Baiguang Model Agency was completely banned. Everyone had their suspicions, and now that Qi Jinxing was kneeling before Chen Jinchuan, their suspicions were confirmed. Baiguang Model Agency must have been banned by Chen Jinchuan. Ha ha ha, Jinchuan, I've said it before. Who else in Longmen City has the ability to ban Baiguang Model Agency other than you? You're amazing. Zhang Guodong, who had been sucking up to Chen Jinchuan before, seized the opportunity to step forward. He didn't care that Baiguang Model Agency's CEO, Qi Jinxing, was still there. He immediately praised Chen Jinchuan to the skies. With Zhang Guodong's words, the people present were more willing to believe that Chen Jinchuan had banned Baiguang Model Agency. Baiguang Model Agency was a huge company. Other than Chen Jinchuan, there was no one else in Longmen City who had the ability to ban Baiguang. Therefore, the surrounding people pointed and whispered, but the words of the surrounding people were all praising Chen Jinchuan to the skies. Qi Jinxing's appearance diverted the attention of those who had been paying attention to quarantine. Just when everyone thought so, Chen Jinchuan spoke to Qi Jinxing. Baiguang Model Agency wasn't shut out by me. But your company deserved it. With that, Chen Jinchuan kicked Qi Jinxing away. How could Chen Jinchuan accept Qi Jinxing's apology? Chen Jinchuan wanted nothing more than to destroy Baiguang Model Agency and make it disappear from this world forever. Just as Chen Jinchuan finished his words, Yin Jian continued, I've said that Baiguang Model Agency will become history. It's your fault for messing with someone you shouldn't have. Chapter 926. Chen Jinchuan's words just now made everyone even more puzzled. Why did Chen Jinchuan keep denying that he wasn't the one who banned Baiguang Model Agency? Just as everyone was thinking this, Yin Jian's sudden words shocked everyone, especially Qi Jinxing himself. Qi Jinxing didn't know who banned his Baiguang Model Agency. Qi Jinxing admitted that Baiguang Model Agency was his life's work. If it was destroyed because he offended someone important, his life would be ruined. However, the only person he could think of was Chen Jinchuan. But why would Chen Jinchuan deny that he was the one who banned Baiguang Model Agency? Instead, this little girl who was still wet behind her ears stood up and said, I said that Baiguang Model Agency will become history. Who told you to offend someone you shouldn't? To be honest, Qi Jinxing was also shocked. Why would this little girl stand up and say something like that? Who are you? Qi Jinxing asked, but he was still kneeling in front of Chen Jinchuan. After all, in Qi Jinxing's subconscious mind, Yin Jian who suddenly appeared was just a little kid. If there was anyone who had the ability to ban Baiguang Model Agency, other than Chen Jinchuan, there was no one else. Just as Qi Jinxing opened his mouth to ask Yin Jian, everyone turned to look at her. However, Yin Jian suddenly crossed her arms and sneered. Just as everyone felt the temperature drop, Yin Jian's voice rang out again. Didn't you want to beg me to let your company go? What? You can't even ask for help from the wrong person, and you still want to protect your company? Yin Jian crossed her arms and nodded with a smile. Her tone was full of provocation and contempt. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp when they heard these words. You did it? You're the one who blacklisted Baiguang Model Agency? Qi Jinxing looked at Yin Jian in disbelief. Similarly, everyone looked at Yin Jian in shock. How could it be Yin Jian? Who did she think she was? Did she have the ability to ban Baiguang Model Agency? Qi Jinxing was not the only one who did not believe Yin Jian. Not many people there believed what she said. Ce who stood on the side blinked, a slight smirk on his handsome face. He did not make a move because he knew that his Xiao Jian had her own solution. Huh? Can you stop joking? Girl, I've been hearing you say that you're the one behind Baiguang Model Agency's incident, and those scouts who lost their manhood. Can't you show me some evidence? Can't you stop making so much trouble? Who do you think you are? Do you think you're up to the heavens? It was not Zhang Guodong's first time hearing Yin Jian admit that she was the one who did it, so he was annoyed, and was even more annoyed by what she said now. Just a girl's 8. S is the SSS. A's have. You're asking who S is? Corentin pointed at Yin Jian exaggeratedly, before continuing in an even more exaggerated tone. What's this Baiguang special agency you're talking about? Do you know Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations? Chapter 927. Rongyao Company was one of the top 10 international multinational companies, and it enjoyed absolute power in the entire world. Even among the top 10 international multinational companies, Rongyao Company was at the top. Countless international businessmen and politicians were proud to be able to cooperate with Rongyao Company. Countless business elites, or top students who graduated from major universities all over the world, and the top students among the top students, all fought to squeeze into Rongyao Company. Rongyao Company was in existence with absolute influence in the world. It was also Yun Jian's power in her previous life, and it was now under the control of Siren. When Yun Jian had just been reborn into the body of the original owner, the first time she went to an internet cafe after being reborn, she used hacking skills to invade Rongyao Company's system and stole a large sum of money from it. Stealing money from oneself Wasn't it referring to people like Yun Jian? Because the person in charge of Rongyao Company was Siren. Siren was Yun Jian's subordinate, and she was in charge of Rongyao Company for Yun Jian. Yun Jian herself was the boss of Rongyao Company, which meant that the founder of Rongyao Company was Yun Jian. The people present might not have heard of Country M's top mechanic, Corentin, but it was impossible for them not to have heard of Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international multinational companies. It was an internationally famous company. Therefore, when everyone present heard Corentin's words, they all maintained their original stupefied actions and froze in place. That look was no different from a person who had been scared silly. Corentin spoke in Chinese just now, so everyone present could understand. But what did Corentin just say? Yun Jian was the boss of Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international multinational companies? Well, what kind of joke was this? How old was she? She was still underage, okay? She was about the same age as Chen Sini, and was still a junior high school student. Everyone present was completely stunned. At the same time, everyone kept their mouths in the shape of an O. It was as if they were shocked by something, and were completely unable to move. The existence of Rongyao Company, whether it was Beiguang Model Agency or Chen Jinchuan's company, was not even qualified to touch the Rongyao Company. It could be said that if Rong and Yao wanted to destroy Beiguang Model Agency or Chen Jinchuan's company, it would only take a phone call. Not to mention that the CEO of Rongyao Company had made a move. Most of the people present believed Corentin's words. Furthermore, Corentin's respect for Yun Jian and his insistence on becoming Yun Jian's disciple were all sorts of things. It could be concluded that if Yun Jian was not the CEO of Rongyao Company, why would the internationally renowned mechanic Mr. Corentin fly a helicopter all the way from Country M to become her disciple? However, after receiving this answer, everyone was unable to react for a while. Everyone was stunned, especially Ji Shasha, who wanted to compare herself with Yun Jian, and Zhang Guodong, who verbally attacked Yun Jian. Both of their faces were pale, as if they had seen a ghost. However, before everyone could react, Zhang Xiaofeng's incredulous voice rang in everyone's ears again. Oh my God, Master, you're the CEO of Rongyao Company? Then, what about New Cruise? Aren't you the CEO of New Cruise? Zhang Xiaofeng's voice was very loud and clear, and it spread all over the place. However, when everyone heard Zhang Xiaofeng's voice, their expressions tensed up again. What? Chapter 928. Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Chen Sini had been learning from Zhang Zhifan, who was managing New Cruise on behalf of Yun Jian for a long time now. Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Ling Yichen would learn about managing a company from Zhang Zhifan whenever it was time. They had heard a lot about Yun Jian from Zhang Zhifan. How did Yun Jian lead Zhang Zhifan and the rest from Xinjiang town to Longmen City back then? How did she take over New Cruise's storefront? How did she develop New Cruise to this stage? Zhang Xiaofeng had heard a lot about these from Zhang Zhifan, and was extremely impressed with Yun Jian back then. Now that he heard that Yun Jian was actually the boss of Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations, Zhang Xiaofeng nearly fainted from shock. It was because Yun Jian was the boss of New Cruise. She was so young, but she had done things that others could not achieve in their entire lives, even when they were older. Although everyone present believed that Yun Jian was the boss of Rongyao Company and the director of New Cruise after listening to Corentin and Zhang Xiaofeng, they were still waiting for Yun Jian's answer. Therefore, they shifted their gaze to Yun Jian, waiting for her reaction. Yun Jian's gaze was trained on Zhang Xiaofeng. She pressed her lips together, her red lips curling up slightly. After a while Yun Jian spoke. That's right. Rongyao Company and New Cruise are mine. She was not afraid of publicity. Of course, so what if she did not admit it? Corentin the old man, and Zhang Xiaofeng the young man, had already revealed it. Corentin the old man, and Zhang Xiaofeng snickered when they saw Yun Jian admit it. Those who stood around, including Ling Yichen and Chen Sini, Chen Jinchuan and his wife He Xia, Zhang Guodong, and even Ji Shasha, were all shocked. Not a single one of them was not surprised. At this moment, everyone's expression was the same. Of course, CE was the exception. Ce was silent, watching the scene before her nonchalantly. So Baiguang Model Agency is really you. Zhang Guodong was so regretful that his intestines were about to turn green. Once he recalled how he had treated Yun Jian just now, he shuddered in fear. Now that he had thought it through, he knew the truth. Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. However, no matter how regretful Zhang Guodong was, he dared not talk to Yun Jian. This was because Zhang Guodong knew that if he spoke to Yun Jian now, he would definitely die a horrible death. Just by looking at how Chen Sini was hurt by Baiguang Model Agency's talent scout, and how Yun Jian had blacklisted Baiguang Model Agency, it was obvious that she was not a pushover. Considering the previous incident, no one present dared to talk to Yun Jian. In the end, no one dared to speak up until Yun Jian bade farewell to Chen Sini and the rest, and returned home with Corentin and Ce. At this moment, Yun Jian had left the group of stunned people behind. However, Yun Jian did not return to Dong Ruan's house. Instead, she went straight to Gu Yunjian's house. This was because Yun Jian knew that Qin Yiru was at Gu Yunjian's house. However, she had a more important matter to attend to. Just as she arrived at the entrance of Gu Yunjian's house, Yun Jian saw a rather tall Gu Xian with a red, yellow, blue, and green hairstyle standing at the entrance and looking into the distance. She did not know what he was looking at. Gu Xian only reacted when he saw Yun Jian and the other two approaching. Gu Xian looked at Yun Jian. Just as he was about to shout, he walked around Yun Jian and saw Corentin behind Yun Jian. Mr. Corentin, Gu Xian exclaimed in shock when he saw the person clearly. Then, he shifted his gaze to Yun Jian. The shock in his heart could not be described with words. Yun Jian actually managed to invite Mr. Corentin here. Chapter 929. Gu Xian had always thought that Yun Jian's request for Corentin to remodel a Maserati sports car was just a joke from Yun Jian. Gu Xian had even forgotten about Yun Jian's claim that she knew how to remodel a sports car. After all, Yun Jian was so young. Perhaps due to her youthful vigor, Gu Xian did not take her words seriously. However, at this very moment, when Gu Xian saw Corentin following Yun Jian in the direction of home, he was completely dumbfounded. Hey, hello young man. Just as Gu Xian looked at Corentin in surprise and shouted, Corentin was as lively as an old urchin. Instead, he took the lead and extended his hand to greet Gu Xian. And Mr. Corentin hello. Gu Xian was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. He actually saw Corentin. Mr. Corentin was one of the top machinists in the world. Not to mention inviting Mr. Corentin all the way from Country M. Even if the son of a famous international figure went to Corentin's house, Corentin would not even bother with them. Not to mention helping someone remodel a sports car. That was something that did not exist at all. Therefore, the moment Gu Xian saw Corentin, he was beyond shocked. Astonishment and fear were just words to describe it. It was as though he had seen his idol. Gu Xian was completely stunned on the spot, unable to react. Old man, it shouldn't be difficult to remodel a Maserati sports car for my brother, right? Yun Jian walked beside Ce. She held Ce's arm and turned her head to speak to Corentin. Gu Xian almost shouted in surprise when he heard Yun Jian call Corentin old man. What kind of person was Corentin? Even in the entire international scene, he was one of the top existences. Countless people in the underworld only dared to address Corentin respectfully as Mr. or Master. But what about Yun Jian? She actually called Corentin an old man? Gu Xian also noticed that Yun Jian actually called him brother? Gu Xian suddenly felt the warmth of family love. Just a Maserati? How could that do? Tomorrow, I'll ask my assistant to send over the newly modified limited edition Bugatti Veyron from my warehouse. Corentin said generously. He looked like he was willing to do anything as long as Yun Jian was willing to accept him as a disciple. When Gu Xian heard this, his entire face froze. Was Mr. Corentin not said to be a very odd man? Gu Xian had seen Corentin's photo and brief introduction in some international newspapers before. According to the introduction, Corentin was a very eccentric person. But then again, who was like Corentin, who would modify a car based on his mood even if you gave him money? But why was the rumored crafty and mean Corentin so obedient in front of Yun Jian? After all, He followed behind Yunjian and said that it wasn't enough to modify a Maserati. He even rushed to send over the latest model of car that he had modified. Gu Xian was stunned, but at this moment, he was very grateful to Yunjian. He could finally own a new car that Mr. Corentin had specially modified. And it was a new car. Just as Gu Xian smiled comfortably, Corentin's voice sounded again. So will you accept me as your disciple? If you accept me as your disciple, I'll send you all the cars in my laboratory. You can even take all my medals. I'll give you anything you want. Corentin pestered Yunjian. However, after hearing Corentin's words, Gu Xian's smile instantly froze. The Mr. Corentin that he worshipped was actually begging to be Yunjian's disciple. Chapter 930. This was Mr. Corentin. He was willing to exchange all his honor for Yunjian to accept him as her disciple. Gu Xian was completely dumbfounded. He stood rooted to the ground in a daze. He thought that Yunjian would definitely agree to Corentin's request. In the end, Yunjian directly rejected Corentin. No. Gu Xian was stunned. He thought that a big shot like Corentin would definitely be infuriated by Yunjian's rejection. As a matter of fact, Corentin was fuming as well. Just as he did so, Gu Xian saw him shaking his buttocks and looking at Yunjian like an innocent child, exhaling and saying, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No. Accept me. I'll be very obedient. I'll even run errands for you. I'll do anything. Corentin's behavior gave Gu Xian goosebumps all over. An old man with one foot in the grave was shaking his buttocks and acting coquettishly in front of a young man. Just the thought of this scene sent shivers down one's spine. Corentin shook his buttocks and tried to reach out to grab Yunjian's arm to further act coquettishly. Just as Corentin's hand reached out, and before he could touch Yunjian's arm, it was caught by an even more slender and well-defined hand. Ci's clear, mellow male voice sounded resolutely. Don't touch her. Other than him, he wouldn't allow any other person of the opposite sex to touch Yunjian. Not even an old person of the opposite sex. Corentin was 1.9 meters tall, which made him slightly taller than Ce. However, in front of Ce, Corentin's aura was completely lost. Ce was 1.85 meters tall, but in front of Ce, even if Corentin was slightly taller than Ce, he was no match for Ce. Therefore, in front of Ce, Corentin's aura was much lower. Corentin was even forced to lower his head by Ce's aura. Corentin even involuntarily withdrew his hand. Looking at this scene, Gu Xian's jaw almost dropped to the ground. In the end, they returned to Gu Yunjian's house amidst Qin Yuru's shouts. Because it was already very late, Qin Yuru tidied up Gu Yunjian's house chores. Then, she gave some instructions to Gu Xian before returning home with Yunjian and the others. Yunjian asked Corentin to arrange his own accommodations, and Gu Xian invited Corentin to stay at his place. Therefore, Corentin could be considered to be staying at Gu Xian's house. The next day was Sunday. As promised, Yunjian had to study at night. When it was time for the evening self-study session, Zhang Xiaofeng had already returned to school. Zhang Xiaofeng had only applied for a week's leave, but Chen Sini would only be back after about a month. The following week passed by uneventfully. Yunjian had been paying attention in class this week. She even completed the homework assigned by the teacher seriously. It was common for Yunjian not to do her homework. Now that she had completed her homework and handed it in, the teachers in the office were extremely surprised. A week passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the Qingming Festival holiday. The Qingming Festival was one of the most important traditional festivals in country Z. Therefore, most schools would have a 3-day holiday. This Thursday was the Qingming Festival, so school was dismissed on Wednesday afternoon. However, Yunjian's school had to start their evening self-study session on Saturday night. On Wednesday of this week, Yunjian, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Zhang Jian carried their school bags and walked out of the school gate. As soon as she walked out of the school gate, she saw Gu Xian standing across the road and waving at her. Chapter 931. Gu Xian had taken a long leave of absence this time. He would still return to study abroad after this, but he could stay at home for the next few days. Corentin's arrival especially made Guxian even more reluctant to return to school early. Moreover, ever since Yunjian brought Corentin to Guxian that night, Guxian had been addressing Yunjian as little sister. Although Guxian and Yunjian were not blood-related at all, Yunjian could tell that Guxian truly treated her as a little sister. Guxian was Gu Yunjian's biological son. Since Guxian could turn for the better, it meant that Qin Yiru could get along better with Gu Junjian after marrying Gu Junjian. In that case, why wouldn't Yunjian be happy? Go. Yunjian nodded. Then she paused and said, I might be a little late tonight. You guys go ahead first. She had promised Ning Lanlan that she would go shopping tonight. Ning Lanlan was a student of foreign languages high school. However, Ning Lanlan was lively by nature. If it were other girls, they would have parted ways long ago after becoming friends with Yunjian, because they were not from the same school. However, Ning Lanlan would still look for Yunjian when she was free. When they went to Nilong River for a barbecue last time, Ning Lanlan came to borrow salt. This time she lent a friend. Yunjian also felt that she got along well with Ning Lanlan, so she did not refuse to go out with Ning Lanlan. Okay. Guxian was overjoyed when he heard that Yunjian would be coming. How could he refuse? Hence he agreed immediately. The more Guxian looked at Yunjian, the more he liked his new little sister. Even Qin Yiru was pleasing to the eye. If Guxian was a little repulsed by Yunjian and Qin Yiru's existence in the beginning, Guxian truly treated Yunjian and Qin Yiru as his family from the bottom of his heart now. Guxian had come to the school to inform Yunjian and was urged by his friend to drive to the only racing track in Longmen City right after he said that. Those who loved racing could naturally find a dedicated racetrack. Guxian had stayed in Longmen City for 2 days and was bored out of his wits when he could not touch a race car. So he went to Longmen City's racetrack. After Guxian left, Yunjian went back to Dong Ruan's house and left her bag there before running out. She had not returned from Anhun. In the downtown area of Longmen City, Yunjian met up with Ning Lanlan. Yunjian, you're here. Ning Lanlan was thrilled when she saw Yunjian and hooked her arm around Yunjian's. Come, let's walk around there. Ning Lanlan came to look for Yunjian alone. She did not have any friends with her. Yunjian nodded. There were quite a lot of downtown areas in Longmen City. Ning Lanlan dragged Yunjian to wander around. When they passed by a mall just now, something black and flesh-colored flashed across their eyes. Wow, Yunjian, let's go check it out. Ning Lanlan pointed at a lingerie shop in the mall and ran in with Yunjian in tow. Welcome. The attendant in the lingerie shop smiled at Ning Lanlan and Yunjian in a friendly manner, looking like she wanted to follow them to introduce her store's products. We're just walking around on our own. You don't have to follow us. Ning Lanlan waved at the attendant. The attendant flashed her a friendly smile as well. When Ning Lanlan saw that the attendant really did not follow them, she pulled Yunjian to a corner of the lingerie shop playfully. When Ning Lanlan saw that there was no one around, she picked out a piece that was so thin that it was almost transparent from the row of lingerie and stuffed it into Yunjian's arms. Chapter 932. When Yunjian was first brought into the lingerie shop by Ning Lanlan, she was still rather surprised. Why did shopping turn into a lingerie shop? It was only now that Yunjian realized what was going on. This was what Ning Lanlan had in mind. She wanted her to buy sexy lingerie? After becoming friends with Ning Lanlan, the latter had been visiting her almost every day for the past week. Although school ended late, Ning Lanlan did not miss a single day. As long as CE was in Longmen City at night, he would come to her school to pick her up. It was not Ning Lanlan's first time seeing CE. Yunjian did not think much about it before. But what was going on now? Ning Lanlan was hinting that she should wear this thin and transparent sexy lingerie to CE. Yunjian felt that if she really did that, she might really be. What are you thinking about? Yunjian said, and shoved the sexy lingerie back onto the rack. Once Yunjian thought about wearing this thin piece of clothing that looked no different from wearing nothing in front of CE. Was she crazy? How could she be thinking about something like that? If the people around them took a closer look, they would be able to see that Yunjian's cheeks were flushed with a faint blush. Buy it. Buy it. Ning Lanlan pulled Yun Jian's hand and shook it before running to the front desk with the lingerie that was hung back on the rack. I'll pay. Haha. Ning Lanlan paid before Yun Jian could reject her. The receptionist at the front desk looked at Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian with an odd gaze, but settled the bill for Ning Lanlan in the end. In the end, even Yun Jian did not know how she ended up with the lingerie that Ning Lanlan bought. Ning Lanlan played with Yun Jian until 6 or 7 in the evening before she checked the time and was ready to go home. Before she left, Ning Lanlan stole a glance at Yun Jian and said with a grin, Jian, you must wear it. Ha ha ha. Try to pounce on him. You have to tell me how it feels when you're done. Haha. Ning Lanlan chuckled exaggeratedly and ran 2 steps away from Yun Jian while waving the bag in her hand. 2 steps later, Ning Lanlan remembered that she still had something to tell Yun Jian, so she skipped back to her again. Jian, I forgot to tell you. I'm going to the zoo for a spring outing with my friends tomorrow morning. If you're free, do you want to come with us? How about it? Lanlan asked and winked at Yun Jian. Ning Lanlan's invitation was sincere. Before Yun Jian could answer, Ning Lanlan agreed on her behalf skillfully. I'll take that as a yes then. You must come. We'll meet at the usual place. With that, Ning Lanlan skipped away without giving Yun Jian a chance to reject her. Yun Jian did not have anything to do the next morning. She stood where she was and watched Ning Lanlan skipping away. It was only when Ning Lanlan was out of sight that Yun Jian turned to go home. Holding the sexy lingerie in her hand, she felt a burning sensation in her hand. Of course, she had to put it back home first. Just as she stepped into the house, she was greeted by Qin Yiru. Yun Jian called out, Mom. Xiao Jian, have you eaten? I've put it in the pot for you. Go eat. Qin Yiru said and suddenly saw the big black bag in Yun Jian's hand. Chapter 933. As Qin Yiru spoke, she habitually walked over and reached out to take the big black bag from Yun Jian's hands. Usually, when Yun Jian bought clothes, Qin Yiru would take the big bag that Yun Jian brought back from shopping to have a look. Sometimes, she would also touch the fabric to see if it was durable or not. People of the parents' generation had a hard time when they were young, especially Qin Yiru. Even though the family was rich now and bought clothes and other things, Qin Yiru still habitually reached out to touch the quality of the clothes, to see how long they could last, and to feel the texture of the clothes to see if they would pilling. Therefore, when she saw Yun Jian come back with the big black bag, Qin Yiru habitually thought that Yun Jian bought clothes. She also habitually reached out to take the big bag from Yun Jian's hands, and then poured out the clothes inside to have a look. If it was in the past, Yun Jian would definitely reach out the bag to Qin Yiru. However, the clothes in the bag were not normal clothes. How could she pass the clothes to Qin Yiru? If Qin Yiru saw the things in the bag, how could she explain it? Ahem, Mom. I just promised Gu Xian that I would go play with him. I will put the things upstairs first. As Yun Jian spoke, she carried the big black bag and ran upstairs as fast as she could. This child, why are you running so fast? Mom is not the plague. Qin Yiru smiled with relief. From her expression, it could be seen that Qin Yiru did not suspect anything. After a while, Yun Jian came downstairs, but Yun Jian did not have the big black bag in her hands. Qin Yiru naturally did not suspect anything. Mom, I'm going out, Yun Jian said and left the place. Hey, you have to worry about yourself going out in the middle of the night, Qin Yiru called after her. The night wind was chilly. Just as Yun Jian stepped out of the house, she felt a gust of cold wind. Yun Jian pulled her clothes together, not looking that cold. Longmen City, Yuanbao Mountain. Yuanbao Mountain was a racing track by the cliff of Longmen City. There were many racing tracks in Longmen City, and Yuanbao Mountain was not necessarily the best one. However, Yuanbao Mountain was definitely the steepest mountain. The reason why countless racers chose to race at Ingot Mountain was because racing at Ingot Mountain was steep and exciting enough. Yuanbao Mountain was not filled with Yuanbao like its name, but it was undoubtedly one of the steepest mountains in Longmen City. What was racing? Wasn't the game just exciting? It was 7:30 in the evening, but the steep cliffs of Yuanbao Mountain were illuminated by bright lights. The racer's race was just the racer's race. Gu Xian was still standing where he was, checking his racing car with his two friends to see if it was fully equipped. This Maserati was recently remodeled by Corentin. Gu Xian was here today to see if this Maserati was good or not. Xian, it'll be our turn soon. One of Gu Xian's two friends said to Gu Xian. Gu Xian had brought 3 friends home this time. One of them was Shen Jia, who was hospitalized after being beaten up by Yun Jian. The other 2 were not bad. Gu Xian nodded and put on his helmet. Just as he put on his helmet, a group of people who looked more like hooligans than Gu Xian surrounded Gu Xian and his friends. The hooligan who stood at the front had a scar on his face, adding to his ferocity. Chapter 934. Gu Xian himself had dyed his hair red, yellow, blue and green. He looked no different from a local ruffian. His red, yellow, blue and green hair made Gu Xian look like a gangster. Therefore, when these gangsters surrounded Gu Xian, they treated Gu Xian as one of their own but from a different faction. When people of the same trade met each other, they would usually treat each other like enemies. Therefore, these gangsters who surrounded Gu Xian looked ferocious. One of Gu Xian's 2 friends was a foreigner, while the other was from country Z. Including Gu Xian himself, there were only 3 of them. Gu Xian's eyelids twitched when he was surrounded by these people. The gangster who stood at the front had a scar on his face and a crew cut. He looked strange as well. Standing in front of Gu Xian, he was much shorter than Gu Xian. It was probably because he could only see Gu Xian's chin when he raised his head. This made the gangster with a scar on his face and a crew cut very dissatisfied. F***ck, how dare you look down on me? Do you know who I am? Do you know Falcon Hall in Longmen City? My big brother is one of the higher-ups in Falcon Hall. Who the F***ck do you think you are? How dare you look down on me? Men, beat him until he's on his knees. The crew-cut hooligan opened his mouth very arrogantly to show off his power. We're new here and don't know the ways of the world. Please bear with us. Gu Xian was smart enough to speak up when he thought of this. If they were overseas, Gu Xian would have formed many gangs, but there were only 3 of them who came back this time. The best fighter, Shen Jia, had already been sent to the hospital by Yun Jian. There were only 3 of them left now. Gu Xian knew that it was useless to put on a brave front, so the best thing to do now was to make peace with these people who were obviously here to cause trouble. At least you have a good eye. The crew-cut man sneered at Gu Xian. He looked up at Gu Xian, spitting saliva all over Gu Xian's face. Gu Xian knew that the other party had the advantage in numbers, so he could only swallow his resentment. Next match, You're going to compete with our brother Guang, aren't you? The crew-cut man finally got down to business. Before Gu Xian could say anything, the crew-cut man continued. If you dare win our brother Guang in that match, don't think about leaving this place today. I'll make sure you won't be able to come back alive. The crew-cut guy threatened fiercely. As he spoke, the man with the crew-cut walked around Gu Xian and stopped in front of the Maserati. The crew-cut guy led a group of people to the front of the Maserati. He patted the sports car and said even more arrogantly, Yo, this car is not bad, right? Lend it to our brother Guang, how about it? He did not allow the other party to refute him. Gu Xian clenched his fists. He could not hold it in any longer. Screech. At this moment, a fiery red limited edition Ferrari sports car suddenly rushed up from the bottom of the hill. The sports car was like a gust of wind. Its speed was maximized, and it arrived in front of the crowd at lightning speed. The crew-cut man and the others were stunned. Even Gu Xian was shocked. Whose car was this? How could it be so fast? It was twice as fast as Mr. Corentin's modified Maserati. In other words, it was 4 times better than an ordinary sports car. Gu Xian was also shocked. However, at this moment, the door of the Ferrari sports car opened, and Yun Jian stepped out of the car. She turned off the listening device installed in the Maserati sports car to eavesdrop on the conversation between Gu Xian and the hooligans. As soon as she got out of the car, Yun Jian leaned lazily against the side of the Ferrari sports car. Looking at the hooligans, her eyes instantly turned cold. Chapter 935. From Yun Jian's appearance to Yun Jian's words to protect him, Gu Xian's heart was beating wildly. This was different from love and friendship. This was a form of protection from family. Gu Xian was not afraid to admit that at this moment, he felt tears welling up in his eyes. It felt as if his heart was suddenly hit by a warm wind. Gu Xian had never experienced such a feeling before. His eyes could not help but turn red. Even his biological mother had never protected him like this. Today, Yun Jian, his sister who was not related to him by blood, actually stood out to protect him. Because he was momentarily moved, Gu Xian did not even notice that Yun Jian had said my falcon hall. Because Yun Jian was young, the crew cut guy and the rest did not even notice that Yun Jian had said my falcon hall. However, it was undeniable that Yun Jian's speed had indeed shocked the crew cut guy and the rest for a while. However, when they thought about it and saw Yun Jian's delicate and beautiful face, the crew cut guy and the rest suddenly relaxed. Yo, where did this little girl come from? Why is she so pretty? The crew cut guy whistled, then led his group of hooligans to Yun Jian's side and surrounded Yun Jian. What are you doing? Seeing this, Gu Xian forgot about his initial intention of showing weakness. Although it was obvious that Yun Jian was very skilled when she beat up Shen Jie, Gu Xian only treated Yun Jian as a younger sister who should be protected. Gu Xian quickly rushed in front of Yun Jian and blocked the crew cut guy and the rest. Haha, kid, do you have a death wish? The crew cut guy cackled when he saw Gu Xian shielding Yun Jian. These hooligans were notorious in Longmen City. They liked to tease pretty girls when they saw them and take them away by force when they got the chance. It was even common for them to rape a girl together. In spite of this, they were from Falcon Hall, and the boss the crew cut guy mentioned was a higher up in Falcon Hall. Therefore, no one dared to stop them even when they were stirring up trouble. Clenching his fists, Gu Xian gritted his teeth and said, "You guys can take the car. Mr. Quaranton modified it." Gu Xian loved the Maserati sports car that Quaranton had modified, to the point that he loved it as much as his own life. If Yun Jian had not shown up today, Gu Xian would not have handed over the car, even if he had to fight these hooligans to the death. After all, Gu Xian's love for this Maserati exceeded his love for his own life, because it was Quaranton who had personally modified it. However, Yun Jian had shown up today. Looking at the crew cut guy and his gang, Gu Xian knew that they looked at Yun Jian differently. Yun Jian was skilled, and had even entered her father's military training camp. However, no matter how good Yun Jian was, she was only a girl. There were about a dozen people in the crew cut guy's gang. How could they possibly be a match for them? Therefore, Gu Xian reluctantly gave up the car, and would rather have the crew cut guy drive the Maserati away to divert their attention from Yun Jian, before leaving with Yun Jian. In short, the crew cut guy and his gang must not turn their attention to Yun Jian. Yo, kid, you actually have a sports car modified by Mr. Quaranton? The crew cut guy jumped in surprise and went to touch the Maserati. Chapter 936. The crew cut guy did temporarily shift his gaze from Yun Jian to the Maserati, but it was only temporary. How could the crew cut guy let go of a girl's looks when they had taken a fancy to her? Sister, what are you talking about? Gu Xian was shocked by Yun Jian's words. He quickly turned to the side and whispered to Yun Jian in the softest voice. Gu Xian had learned a lot of martial arts, but he knew that he was no match for the crew cut guy, who was originally a hooligan and was good at fighting. He had not reached the level where he could take on more than 10 people. Moreover, a great man knew when to yield and when to stand tall. Originally, Gu Xian did not intend to tolerate being insulted to this extent. However, he had to tolerate it now. He still had Yun Jian on his side. Moreover, wasn't it all because of Yun Jian that Mr. Quaranton could modify the Maserati sports car? Just based on this point, Gu Xian would protect Yun Jian at all costs. It was because he was Yun Jian's brother now too. However, while Gu Xian was doing this, the crew cut guy finally reacted to Yun Jian's words. F***CK. How dare you say that my hands are dirty? The crew cut guy raised his voice. From the sudden ferocious expression on his face, it could be seen that he was really angry. Isn't it? Don't tell me you sprayed perfume on your hands? Yun Jian did not mince her words at all. She then added, even if you sprayed perfume, your hands are still dirty. Puffed. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, Gu Xian's other brother, who was standing beside him, could not help but laugh out loud. Seeing Yun Jian's serious look, and suddenly hearing Yun Jian's black-bellied words, Gu Xian's brother could not help but laugh out loud. F***ck. Hearing what Yun Jian and Gu Xian said, the flat-top guy got even angrier. B***tch, I'm going to kill you, the man with the crew cut said. He raised his hand, and wanted to rush over to give Yun Jian a slap. However, before he could raise his hand, a hooligan with a crew cut ran out from the side of the path. Just as the crew cut guy was about to slap Yun Jian, the hooligan pulled him back. He even whispered a few words into the crew cut guy's ear. Just as he said a few words, the crew cut man's expression changed. F***ck, count yourselves lucky. Kid, if you dare to beat my brother Guang later, you're dead meat. The crew cut guy didn't forget to say these words before he left. After that, the crew cut guy said to his brothers, let's go. With that, the group of people swaggered out of the place. Yun Jian didn't stop her. In spite of it, Yun Jian's gaze darkened. Since when did her Falcon Hall have such a piece of trash? Haha. It seemed like she had to get rid of them completely. Sister, are you okay? Once the crew cut guy and his gang left, Gu Xian was afraid that Yun Jian would be frightened, so he turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian shook her head slightly. Then, she walked to her Ferrari and knocked on the hood of the Ferrari. She turned to Gu Xian and said, do you want to try this car of mine? It's twice as fast as Corentin's modified Maserati sports car. Twice as fast? Gu Xian exclaimed in surprise. After all, Corentin's modified Maserati sports car was already shocking enough. However, he had seen Yun Jian's speed just now. Thinking of this, Gu Xian couldn't help but ask, which master modified this car? Who modified this car to be twice as fast as Master Corentin's modified car? Chapter 937. Hearing Yun Jian say that the car was modified by her in such a situation, she was stunned. At this moment, Gu Xian did not think that Yun Jian was lying at all. Yun Jian saw that Gu Xian did not say anything. She pursed her lips and smiled. You don't believe me? I believe you. This time, it was Gu Xian who spoke with conviction. He really believed her. Yun Jian could invite Mr. Corentin here, and even make him beg to be Yun Jian's disciple. What other reason could there be? There was no other reason, except that Yun Jian had more advanced mechanical skills than Mr. Corentin. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. Then she patted her Ferrari sports car and finally said to Gu Xian, go ahead. Don't worry about winning the race. With me around, those people won't dare to do anything to you. Gu Xian felt a warmth in his heart when he heard Yun Jian's words. It felt like he was being protected by a family member. Even though Gu Xian thought that Yun Jian was lying when she said that she could help him win the race without worry, Gu Xian was satisfied because he also experienced the feeling of family. Okay. Gu Xian nodded heavily at Yun Jian. Then he took the car keys from Yun Jian, got into Yun Jian's Ferrari sports car, and watched it go to the racetrack. Racing was Gu Xian's hobby, so he naturally would not be intimidated by the crew cut guys group. Even though Gu Xian had lowered his head just now, it did not mean that he would give in to Brother Guang on the racetrack. He would definitely win today's race. As she watched Ji Xian drive away, Yun Jian suddenly crossed her arms. She turned her head and glanced at the two Gu Xian buddies who were still standing there. You're not leaving? Yun Jian took 2 steps towards the edge of the racetrack. Then she turned her head to look at the two people. Leave. Where are we going? Gu Xian's 2 buddies looked honest and considerate. One of them was a foreigner, and the other was from country Z. Perhaps it was because they had seen Yun Jian's strength before. So when they saw Yun Jian, they stood respectfully. Let's go to the starting point of the racetrack to watch the race, Yun Jian said, as she led the way to the starting point of the racetrack. The 2 men from Gu Xian were stunned. In the end, they followed Yun Jian to the starting point of the racetrack. Many people had gathered at the starting point of the racetrack. Yuanbao Mountain had specially set up a spectator stand to allow those who were interested in racing to watch the race. Of course, there were many large screens hanging in front of the spectator stands. These screens showed the steep and winding mountain range of Yuanbao Mountain. Yuanbao Mountain's competition points were specially managed by the organizers. On the winding mountain range of Yuanbao Mountain, there were surveillance cameras set up at every point. And these surveillance cameras captured the racers' paths, which would be reflected on the large screens in front of the spectator stands. As long as one sat on the spectator stands, they would be able to see the entire race. Where are you going? Seeing that Yun Jian did not walk to the spectator stands, one of the two men from Guxian, who was from Country Z, could not help but ask. I'm going to place a bet. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. Then Yun Jian's figure flashed. Not long after, she arrived at the place where bets were placed. Racing was an exciting and fun game. However, there were also betting stations set up at the racetrack. In other words, for one-on-one racing, those who did not participate in the race could come here to place a bet on which side would win. If the side who bet won, then they would receive the corresponding compensation. Chapter 938. Seeing Yun Jian walk over to the betting station, Guxian's two buddies hesitated for a moment before following her. At this moment, the betting station was already full of people. Other than watching the racing competition, most people would choose to come here to place their bets. Everyone liked these kinds of exciting bets. But the people standing at the betting station were all men without exception. Generally, women wouldn't come here to place their bets, so the people standing at the betting station were all men. So when Yun Jian walked over, she became the focus of everyone's attention. Because just by looking at Yun Jian's appearance, one could tell that she was young. Everyone present could tell at a glance that Yun Jian was underage. Hey little girl, are you here to place your bets too? Why don't you go home early and come here to place your bets? This is what adults do. Go away, go play somewhere else. Seeing Yun Jian walking over, one of the men who was waiting in line to place his bets waved at Yun Jian. This man was probably bored, so when he saw Yun Jian walking over, he wanted to tease her. It was a good opportunity for the people around to see that an underage girl actually came here to place her bets. Hearing the man's voice, the people around turned to look at Yun Jian. Even the manager of the betting station couldn't help but step forward to persuade Yun Jian when he saw her. Little girl, the viewing platform is over there. You've gone to the wrong place. Upon hearing the manager's words, the surrounding group of people also retracted their gazes. If this little girl had gone to the wrong place, then it would be fine. But if such a young girl really came here to place her bets, then it would be scary. Just as the people around thought of this, Yun Jian had already arrived in front of the betting station. The people who had just looked away couldn't help but look at Yun Jian again. And at this time, they were all shocked. Could this underage girl really be here to place her bets? However, just as everyone present was thinking this, Yun Jian moved her red lips and smiled indifferently. Place your bets. As Yun Jian spoke, she took out a bank card from her pocket and gently placed it on the betting table. As soon as they heard that Yun Jian wanted to place a bet, the surrounding people didn't care about Yun Jian cutting the queue at all. What was wrong with this world? Even underage girls came here to place bets? However, just as everyone thought of this, Yun Jian's voice sounded again. 10 million for the red Ferrari sports car over there. Yun Jian pointed at the Ferrari in the distance that was ready for the race. Guxian was already waiting in the preparation area. The next round would be between him and Brother Guang. However, when Yun Jian uttered the words 10 million, everyone around her took a deep breath. 10 million? 10 million? Heavens, did they hear it wrong? The people who were lining up to place their bets were either the bosses of some companies, or the sons of very rich families, or some workers who were looking for entertainment and didn't have much money in their pockets. Of course, the bets were not divided into big or small, but the highest record of betting here was only a few million. At the very least, the group of people standing in front of her would only bet a few 100,000 at most, with tens, hundreds, or thousands of yuan at most. Originally, The people present felt that it was strange enough that an underage girl like Yun Jian came here to place a bet. But what did she say? 10 million? Was this a joke? Chapter 939. Even if it was 10 million Chinese yuan, it was the fortune of Longmen City's big boss. After all, such an amount was already considered huge in 1999. Back then, those who had more than 1 million yuan in savings were called millionaires. That was how millionaires came to be. It was different from modern times. If one had 1 million yuan back then, they would be at the top of the world. What about Yun Jian? She wanted to bet 10 million right off the bat. She even added US dollars at the end. If converted to Chinese yuan, it would be 60 million yuan. Oh my god. 60 million yuan was close to 100 million yuan. If it was 1999, 100 million yuan worth of assets would definitely make the list of the richest people in Longmen City, and even the entire Zhe province. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the two men from Guxian nearly fell to the ground in shock. Guxian's two buddies had originally planned to bet a few hundred yuan on Guxian. However, compared to the 60 million yuan that Guxian's younger sister had bet, the men from Guxian stuffed the few hundred yuan back into their pockets quietly. Little girl this. The manager of the betting station had never met anyone who bet 60 million yuan in one go. He was stunned by Yun Jian's action and only stuttered after a while. You can register now. Yun Jian did not care about the manager's reaction as she urged him. The staff member's hands trembled, but he accepted the card anyway and said out of goodwill, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Little girl, do you really want to bet on that red Ferrari? The person who's going against the Ferrari is a higher-up in Falcon Hall. People call him Brother Guang. He's famous, and he's never lost since he came to the racetrack. I'll bet on it, Yun Jian said before the manager could say anything else. All right. The manager naturally listened to Yun Jian and went through the procedures for Yun Jian with trembling hands. After Yun Jian placed her bet, she took the betting slip and went to the viewing platform. Sister Guxian, I'll buy you a bottle of juice. There's a vendor over there with a cart. One of Guxian's buddies walked up to Yun Jian and flattered her. No need. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled at him. Then, she walked into the viewing platform. From the viewing platform, one could clearly see the winding racing track of Yuanbao Mountain on the large screens in front of them. At this moment, the red Ferrari driven by Guxian was already side by side with the Audi sports car driven by Brother Guang. It's starting, it's starting. The two guys from Guxian hugged each other and screamed excitedly. Yun Jian crossed her arms in front of her chest as she watched the Ferrari and Audi race side by side, until the referee pointed the air gun at the sky and fired. At the same time, he waved the little red flag in his hand. Then the two sports cars drove out at the same speed as the wind. After just a short while, the red Ferrari sports car had a huge lead over the Audi sports car. The two sports cars quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, they appeared on the large screens in a short while. After a few dozen turns, the Audi sports car was about to catch up. It had to be said that Guxian's driving skills were still lacking. However, the Ferrari sports car's speed allowed Guxian to be one step ahead. There was a turn at Yuanbao Mountain that could avoid the large screens that the audience was watching. At this moment, Brother Guang, who was driving the Audi sports car, looked fiercely at the red Ferrari sports car that he was following closely, but could not overtake. Brother Guang suddenly smiled evilly. He suddenly thought of an idea. Chapter 940. At this time, Guxian, who was driving the Ferrari in front of Brother Guang, did not realize that he had been targeted by Brother Guang. He had never considered the possibility of danger before. Car racing was a thrilling competition, and at the same time, there was a certain degree of danger in racing. Especially when racing on a dangerous cliff like Yuanbao Mountain. If the car was not careful, it could crash down the cliff. Yuanbao Mountain was a mountain that was hundreds of meters above sea level. If the car crashed down the cliff, there was only one result for the person, and that was to be smashed to pieces. Therefore, under such circumstances, Even if the racer did something to the other racer, no one would know. Brother Guang gave a sinister smile. The corner of the hill was in front, and there were no surveillance cameras at that corner. If he did not slow down and instead sped up, he could catch up to Gu Xian's Ferrari. At that time, even if he did not knock the Ferrari off the cliff, he could break the brakes of the Ferrari. At this moment, the corner without any surveillance cameras appeared. Brother Guang's lips curled into a sinister smile. He slammed on the accelerator when Gu Xian's Ferrari began to slow down. There was a sea of people in the spectator stands. Everyone was watching this exciting race, and they were all excited. Suddenly, the two sports cars on the screen turned into the corner of the hill and disappeared from the screen in the next 10 seconds. This was a stage deliberately set up by the organizers to make everyone feel the tense atmosphere of the race. The purpose was to let everyone guess which car would be in the lead after 10 seconds. Therefore, the organizers did not set up surveillance cameras at this corner. Before the Audi sports car disappeared, Yun Jian had a nagging feeling that something was off. At the same time, Yun Jian felt her eyelids twitch wildly, but she did not think too much about it. 10 seconds later, the Audi sports car rushed out of the corner and took the lead. The commentator, who was standing furthest away, changed his way of explaining. He used a surprised expression to describe what was happening in front of him. Hey, our Audi sports car is actually ahead of the Ferrari sports car. Our Ferrari sports car. After a while, the Ferrari sports car still hadn't rushed out. The commentator wanted to say, our Ferrari sports car actually fell behind at the end and was overtaken by the Audi sports car. But when the commentator said this, the Ferrari sports car still hadn't come out. What happened? Even the commentator felt a sense of lingering fear. Everyone was stunned by the commentator's words. However, everyone quickly reacted. If a sports car didn't appear after so long, and with the speed of a sports car, it was impossible for it to stop in an instant. It could only mean one thing. The sports car fell off the cliff. Or was there some other reason? However, at this moment, the red Ferrari sports car appeared on the screen again. But the difference was that this red Ferrari sports car was on the verge of collapse. It looked like, oh my God, the brakes of the Ferrari sports car are malfunctioning. The commentator quickly realized that something was wrong, and he quickly exclaimed. However, the moment the commentator exclaimed, under everyone's gaze, a thin figure leaped from the viewing platform. The figure jumped directly over everyone's heads from the fourth high step of the viewing platform and onto the flat ground. Everyone present saw this scene. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. However, when everyone came to their senses, they saw Yun Jian running toward a sports car not far away. A wave of astonishment surged in the hearts of those present. Was she going to save the people in the Ferrari sports car, whose brakes were out of control? How was this possible? Chapter 941. Incidents like this where the brakes failed during a race had happened before. Of course, there weren't many incidents where the brakes failed during a race. If such a thing really happened, then the racer was unlucky. Of course, there was another possibility that everyone was well aware of, but they wouldn't express it in words, man-made. Not only was racing a dangerous and exciting game, but there were also many shady dealings that everyone knew about. Of course, everyone knew about these shady dealings. Once it was discovered that the brakes had malfunctioned, the unlucky racer would usually end up dead or seriously injured. This was because something similar had happened at Yuanbao Mountain before, and it had been discovered no less than 5 times. Any racer whose brakes failed would either die or be seriously injured. 2 out of 5 would die, and even if they survived, they would be paralyzed. Therefore, when everyone saw Gu Xian's Ferrari lose control, their first thought was that Gu Xian was dead meat. Even if he didn't die, he would be crippled for the rest of his life. But when everyone saw Yun Jian run towards the sports car parked not far away, a shocking thought came to everyone's mind. Could it be that the girl who suddenly ran over there wanted to drive the sports car to save the person in the Ferrari whose brakes had failed? This was simply impossible, because the Ferrari had already lost control. It wouldn't stop unless it hit a certain mountain rock. However, If this Ferrari sports car were to crash into some mountain rock, then the person sitting in the Ferrari sports car would definitely be seriously injured, if not dead. However, just as everyone present was certain that Gu Xian, who was in the Ferrari, was dead for sure, Yun Jian ran in front of a Maybach sports car. The Maybach sports car was parked next to the racetrack, and a man in his 30s was standing next to it, wiping the Maybach sports car. Yun Jian walked over and sat directly in the Maybach sports car with its door open. She said to the car owner, "Lend me your car for a while." Then, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator, and the Maybach sports car shot out like a bolt of lightning. Hey! The man in his 30s, who was the owner of the Maybach sports car, waved at Yun Jian, but the car had already been snatched away by Yun Jian. The car owner, who was standing in place, was dumbfounded. He swallowed in shock and sighed deeply. Are all girls so fierce nowadays? However, at this moment from the spectator stands, one could see that Yun Jian had already driven the Maybach sports car in the opposite direction of Yuanbao Mountain. Gu Xian, Brother Guang, and the others were driving along the racetrack, but Yun Jian was driving in the opposite direction. Driving in the opposite direction of the track, Yun Jian could meet Gu Xian's Ferrari head-on. Yun Jian's is Maybach's Maybach sports car. After that, the spectator stands were filled with the sound of people talking in fear. Heavens, what did that girl want to do? Is she going to save someone? That Ferrari sports car has already lost control. Even if she goes to save someone, she has no chance of winning. I feel like she's going to die. The spectators on the spectator stands watched nervously as Yun Jian disappeared from everyone's sight. Not long after, she appeared on the large screen again. Chapter 942. Of course, everyone present didn't think that was possible. From the screen, it could be seen that the Ferrari sports car was already on a rampage, and it looked like it was about to collapse. Yun Jian was driving the Maybach sports car and was rushing in that direction. However, it was hard to say if Yun Jian's Maybach sports car would collide with Gu Xian's Ferrari sports car. Fortunately, it wasn't difficult for the people present to see that Gu Xian was driving the Ferrari sports car. Although the brakes had failed, the car was still moving forward. It couldn't stop or slow down. However, whether it was a cliff or a rock, he still turned the steering wheel with all his might. If Gu Xian turned the steering wheel too slowly and fell off the cliff, or hit a rock too quickly, he might die before Yun Jian arrived. However, from the big screen, although the Ferrari sports car was out of control, it was still trying its best to turn the direction, and didn't give up. In fact, Gu Xian, who was sitting in the Ferrari sports car, was already sweating. He felt the call of death. When he turned the corner just now, and the car slowed down, Brother Guang directly stepped on the accelerator and rushed up. Brother Guang's rush directly knocked Gu Xian to the edge of the cliff. Just a little bit, and Gu Xian would have fallen off the cliff with the car. Fortunately, Gu Xian grabbed the steering wheel with all his might, and didn't let the steering wheel go crooked. F***ck. Damn it. Gu Xian groaned hatefully. At this moment, he was walking on the edge of life and death, and could die at any time. This wasn't the time to be angry. So Gu Xian put aside his hatred for Brother Guang, and focused on holding the steering wheel tightly. Gu Xian couldn't die here like a coward. Yun Jian was driving the Maybach sports car at an astonishing speed, turning one mountain road after another. The moment Yun Jian turned a corner, the people sitting on the viewing platform shouted in shock. Amazing! At this moment, this group of people was shocked by Yun Jian's lightning-like driving skills. Oh my god! Am I seeing things? That girl hadn't even stepped on the brakes since she started the car. This is too amazing. Too frightening. I'm sure this girl is an expert racer. I've never seen such amazing driving skills. The crowd roared and commented. At this moment, Yun Jian, who was driving a Maybach sports car, happened to meet Brother Guang, who was driving an Audi sports car to the finish line. Yun Jian's car came from the opposite direction of the finish line, so it bumped into Brother Guang's Audi. Yun Jian brushed past Brother Guang's Audi just like that. However, the moment she brushed past Brother Guang's Audi, A murderous look flashed across Yunjian's eyes. Brother Guang was the first to arrive at the finish line without any obstacles. As soon as he got out of the car, he flashed a victorious smile at the camera. He had already sent the crew cut guy and the others to warn Guxian. But in the end, Guxian did not listen and insisted on getting ahead of him. If that's the case, then go to hell. Brother Guang turned his head to look at the large screen in front of him. He thought he would see the scene of the Ferrari sports car crashing into a cliff or hitting a mountain bike and dying. But what Brother Guang saw was this. Yunjian's Maybach sports car had already collided with the Ferrari sports car. However, just when everyone present thought that Yunjian was powerless, Yunjian suddenly stepped on the brakes. Is she crazy? Does she want that Ferrari sports car to hit her and send her flying? She actually wants to use her own car to stop that Ferrari sports car? Someone exclaimed. Chapter 943. She's crazy. She's really crazy. If the Ferrari crashes into her car, both her car and her car will fall off the cliff. Someone in the know said again. In spite of it, Yunjian had already parked the Maybach sports car. On the big screen, Guxian's Ferrari was getting closer to the Maybach that was blocking his way. Yunjian, drive away. Drive away. You'll die. Drive away now. Guxian saw Yunjian's car parked in the middle of the road as well. When he saw that the person in the Maybach was Yunjian, he bellowed her full name. Guxian knew very well that if Yunjian parked her car in the middle of the road and waited for his Ferrari to crash into her, Yunjian would definitely be sent flying by the Ferrari he was driving now. Guxian did not want to die, but he did not want Yunjian to die for him either. Therefore, Guxian turned the steering wheel, planning to bypass Yunjian's Maybach and drive himself off the cliff. If he had to die, he would just let him die. It wasn't easy for him to recognize a younger sister. How could he let his younger sister die for him? Guxian was prepared to die. Taking a deep breath, he turned the steering wheel and closed his eyes. The Ferrari was about to fall off the cliff. Oh my God! The scene shocked the audience sitting on the viewing platform. The person in the Ferrari drove himself off the cliff to prevent the little girl from sacrificing herself to save him. The scene in front of them touched the hearts of all the audience members. Although they didn't know the relationship between the two people in the Ferrari sports car and the Maybach sports car, the scene just now was enough to shock everyone present. It was over. Everything was over. Die, go to hell. Brother Guang had already gotten out of the Audi sports car. He grinned menacingly as his eyes were glued to the big screen. He had never seen Yunjian's face, but he, Brother Guang, was never afraid of anyone in Longmen City. He was a high-ranking member of Falcon Hall. Although his status was not as high as Su Zetian and Duan Lei's, if it was someone with a higher status than him, he naturally couldn't afford to offend them. But someone like Guxian wanted to surpass him? TSK, dream on. While Brother Guang was thinking about this, Guxian had already driven towards the cliff. Everyone in the spectator stand sat up straight. But at this moment on the big screen, the black Maybach sports car moved. Almost at the same time, the Maybach stepped on the accelerator and slammed into the Ferrari. TCH. The sports car brushed against the door of the sports car, while the Maybach that Yunjian was driving brushed against the door of the Ferrari sports car. Sparks flew as both cars brushed past each other. But in the next second, Yunjian, who was sitting in the Maybach, turned the steering wheel. She pushed the Ferrari back from the edge of the cliff at a frightening speed. Everyone in the spectator stands widened their eyes, watching as Yunjian pushed the Ferrari back into the lane. The Maybach stepped on the accelerator. Just as she was about to fall off the cliff, she stepped on the accelerator and stepped on it again. However, the Maybach did not stop moving forward after it stepped on the accelerator. The Maybach sports car caught up with the Ferrari sports car in reverse. Under everyone's gaze, the Maybach sports car crashed into the side of the Ferrari sports car. The two cars were close to each other as sparks flew. Finally, at a corner, a horrifying scene occurred. The Maybach made a sudden turn and pressed the Ferrari sports car against the cliff, causing it to crash into the cliff at a speed that did not hurt anyone. At the same time, the Maybach stepped on the accelerator and stopped abruptly. Everything was over. The people in the Ferrari sports car were rescued. Chapter 944. Yunjian had crashed the Ferrari sports car into the rock at a special angle, allowing Guxian to avoid being injured. After Yunjian forced the Ferrari sports car to stop with the Maybach, she braked and stopped the Maybach as well. Yunjian's first reaction after she got out of the car was to run to the Ferrari sports car and open the door for Guxian to climb out from the passenger seat. At this moment, the spectator stands were completely silent. Everyone who saw the scene was so shocked that they froze. Not a single person was not stunned. Beside Brother Guang stood the crew-cut guy, and the rest who had tried to threaten Guxian earlier. They were dumbfounded when they saw the shocking scene on the big screen. Especially Brother Guang. Especially Brother Guang. Especially for someone like Brother Guang, who had been in the underworld for so many years, and had raced many times. He had never encountered such a situation. The sports car's brakes had malfunctioned, and it could be rescued safely. Yunjian had used the Maybach sports car to forcefully stop the Ferrari sports car, whose brakes had malfunctioned. As it turned out, the scene had shocked everyone present. Such a feat was unheard of even in the entire Zhe province and country Z, let alone Longmen City. How good must one's driving skills be to be able to pull it off? After all, the Maybach sports car had rescued the Ferrari sports car from the edge of the cliff. The Ferrari sports car had initially planned to fall off the cliff by itself, but what happened in the end? The Maybach sports car had managed to push the Ferrari sports car back from the edge of the cliff. More importantly, the people in the two sports cars were not hurt at all. As the surveillance cameras on the road were installed with reflectors and Yunjian had walked to the Ferrari sports car with the camera on her back, the screen in front of the spectator stands could not see Yunjian's face clearly. Yunjian had already walked to the passenger seat of the Ferrari sports car. She opened the door and said to Guxian, "Come out." Guxian had yet to recover from the shock of almost falling off the cliff. He was panting desperately, looking like he had been given quite a fright. When Guxian recovered, he looked at Yunjian. The moment he turned his head, he saw the front of the Ferrari sports car had crashed into the rock and was dented. The car was damaged. "Sister, I'm sorry. I damaged your car." Guxian lowered his head in self-reproach. "Isn't it just a scratch? The car can be repaired if it's damaged. Mine has been wrecked hundreds of times. It won't make a difference to you this time," Yunjian said with a lazy smirk with her arms crossed. In her previous life, she drove this car whenever she went out on a mission. This Ferrari sports car had been scrapped hundreds of times, but it was always repaired by her until it was as good as new. Guxian's head snapped up when he heard what Yunjian said, and he eventually got out of the Ferrari sports car under her gaze. The crowd in the spectator stands had all reached the finish line. Yunjian drove Guxian back to the finish line in the Maybach sports car. Everyone in the spectator stands screamed as they watched Yunjian drive back. Her astounding driving skills just now had made her the god of racing in their hearts. After Yunjian and Guxian got out of the car, two of Guxian's buddies came over to help Guxian. Yunjian, on the other hand, went straight to Brother Guang and the others who had fled. Brother Guang and the others were about to flee, but just as they were about to carry Yunjian away, Yunjian's voice came slowly. "Where do you think you're going?" Her voice was like a demon from hell. Although Brother Guang had never seen Yunjian's face, he could not help but tremble violently with Yunjian on his back. In spite of it, Brother Guang still said arrogantly as he turned around, "Ha, do you think you're—" Just as he said that, Brother Guang caught sight of Yunjian's face. Once he saw Yunjian's face, Brother Guang fell to his knees with a thud. His eyes widened in fear as he stuttered, "Sister Jian. Sister Jian." Chapter 945. Brother Guang had never caught a glimpse of Yunjian's face from start to end. From Yunjian's appearance to snatching the Maybach sports car to save Guxian, she had never shown her face on camera. Naturally, the audience watching from the viewing platform did not get a clear look at Yunjian's face as well. It was not until Yunjian was completely exposed to the public and called out to Brother Guang and his gang who were about to flee that the audience finally got a clear look at her face. Of course, this was not a big deal. Most importantly, Bro Guang had just turned around aggressively with the attitude that he would not stop until he caused trouble for Yun Jian today. But the moment he turned around, Yun Jian's expression changed drastically. When he turned around, Brother Guang had actually knelt down in front of Yun Jian, at an even faster speed. What was going on? Why was Brother Guang calling this girl Sister Jian? Sister Jian? Everyone knew that Brother Guang was a member of the mafia. Today, however, he had actually knelt down after getting a clear look at Yun Jian's face. While the audience was surprised, the crew cut guy and his gang were equally terrified. Brother Guang was a higher-up in Falcon Hall. He had never been afraid of anyone since he joined the racing scene. Why was he kneeling down like a weakling when he saw Yun Jian today? Brother Guang, what game are you playing? I told you just now that this B***TCH said my hands were dirty. I didn't F***King kill her just now. I'll do it to her right now. The crew cut guy had a conflict with Yun Jian previously, so he held a strong opinion of Yun Jian. Seeing Brother Guang kneeling down in front of Yun Jian, the crew cut guy did not react at all. He even walked toward Yun Jian, as if he would lose face if he did not beat up Yun Jian. Brother Guang had heard the crew cut guy complain about what happened between him and Yun Jian before. If it had been just now, Brother Guang would have been furious when he heard what the crew cut guy said. What about now? Brother Guang was a senior executive of Falcon Hall. He had been in Falcon Hall for a few years, and had naturally seen the current boss of Falcon Hall. Obviously, Brother Guang had only seen Yun Jian from afar, so he didn't recognize Yun Jian. When Brother Guang heard that the crew cut guy was going to mess with Yun Jian, he was so scared that he grabbed the crew cut guy. Brother Guang stood up and punched the crew cut guy in front of everyone. This punch sent the crew cut guy to the ground. F***CK, shut your dirty mouth. If you dare badmouth Sister Jian in front of me again, I'll beat you to death. Brother Guang scolded the crew cut guy loudly. In fact, Brother Guang was thinking that he had actually challenged Sister Jian. The person who tried to kill Sister Jian with the car just now? When Brother Guang thought of this, his whole body trembled. Therefore, he thought that he could make up for it before things reached a point of no return. It would be best to push all the blame onto the crew cut guy. In spite of it, Yun Jian was not someone who could not see the truth. Watching Yun Jian walk toward him, Brother Guang was shaking all over. Sister Jian, it's this guy's fault. You're a magnanimous person, please don't. Brother Guang trailed off. Yun Jian was already striding to Brother Guang and stomped on his chest, right in front of everyone, sending him flying several meters away from his kneeling position. The people around them were terrified and bewildered. How dare this girl treat Brother Guang, who was a senior executive of Falcon Hall, like this? Was she not afraid of Falcon Hall's revenge? Just as they thought so, Yun Jian's voice rang again. Do you think I'm an idiot? Let me tell you, the Ferrari sports car you just wrecked is my car. The person you want to kill is my brother. Chapter 946. My Falcon Hall? Everyone present latched onto these 4 words. If Yun Jian had uttered these words right from the start, no one would have bothered with her. No one was even willing to pay close attention to what Yun Jian said. In spite of it, the extent of Brother Guang's fear of Yun Jian had forced everyone to pay attention to Yun Jian's every word and action. In addition, everyone knew that Brother Guang was a high-ranking member of Falcon Hall. As a high-ranking member of Falcon Hall, it was impossible for Brother Guang to cower like this upon seeing Yun Jian, unless he had met someone with a higher status in Falcon Hall. He had even knelt before Yun Jian just now. You're from Falcon Hall too? Hearing Yun Jian say my Falcon Hall, the crew cut man clambered up from the ground and went to Yun Jian, staring at her in disbelief. It was also at this moment that Gu Xian looked at Yun Jian with the same stunned gaze. Even when he was studying abroad, Gu Xian knew of Falcon Hall's existence. The current Falcon Hall was something that even the police could not do anything about. Moreover, rumors about Falcon Hall in the underworld had spread all over Longmen City. Gu Xian had heard about it once he returned to the country, and was shocked as well. Judging by Brother Guang's reaction and Yun Jian's tone, Was Yun Jian from Falcon Hall too? Of course, Gu Xian, including those present, would never compare Yun Jian with Falcon Hall's boss, slaying Luo. After all, Yun Jian looked too young and could hardly convince the crowd. Since you're from Falcon Hall, why haven't I seen you before? The crew-cut man's brows furrowed into a frown that looked as ugly as wrinkles. He questioned Yun Jian at the same time. The crew-cut man was Brother Guang's lackey. Even someone of Brother Guang's status could only show half of his face among Falcon Hall's higher-ups. Even Brother Guang had only seen Falcon Hall's boss from afar. Moreover, Yun Jian did not enter Falcon Hall's headquarters often. Su Zetian was usually in charge. Now that Su Zetian was heavily injured, Su Zetian's most trusted subordinate, Duan Lei, was in charge. Therefore, it was reasonable that the crew-cut man had never seen Yun Jian. You didn't see me at Falcon Hall? Yun Jian frowned slightly. Some of the men and boys in the room felt numb when they saw her ravishing beauty. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Brother Guang, whose heart was tense, and the group of brothers who had just scolded Yun Jian with the crew-cut guy all shifted their gazes. Everyone's eyes shifted to Yun Jian. Even Gu Xian and Gu Xian's two buddies were no exception. Yun Jian stood in the same place. Her long black hair flowed elegantly, and her high ponytail made her look full of energy. That's right. The crew-cut man was shocked by Yun Jian's aura, but he reacted quickly and looked at her arrogantly. Get the hell out of my way. Damn it. Seeing the crew-cut man's behavior, Brother Guang was terrified again. How dare he act arrogantly in front of Falcon Hall's boss? Brother Guang wanted to slap the crew-cut man to death. At the same time, Yun Jian's arrogant voice was heard again. You want to see me at Falcon Hall? Are you worthy? Raising her voice, Yun Jian's arrogant words made everyone present feel respect for her. This young lady was so arrogant. Chapter 947. Are you even worthy? Yun Jian's words made the crew-cut guy's heart clench. Any man would be angry to be addressed in such a tone, especially a man like the crew-cut guy, who cared a lot about his reputation. Most importantly, Yun Jian was still an underage girl at Yun Jian's age, yet she stood in front of him and said that. You want to see me in Falcon Hall? Are you even worthy? The crew-cut guy was completely enraged by Yun Jian. He did not even care why Brother Guang was so afraid of Yun Jian anymore. Are you King looking for death? I'm going to kill you today. I'm not human. The crew-cut guy was instantly enraged. He ignored Brother Guang's attempts to stop him and insisted on walking towards Yun Jian. The crew-cut guy was his subordinate. Brother Guang knew that if the crew-cut guy offended Yun Jian today, he would not be far from death. Brother Guang's heart skipped a beat. He was almost scared to death by the crew-cut guy's actions. However, just as the crew-cut guy was about to approach Yun Jian, Brother Guang's angry roar was heard. Zhuo Ping, you're crazy. She's the boss of Falcon Hall. Do you still want to live here? Zhuo Ping was the crew-cut guy's name. Brother Guang called out the crew-cut guy's full name. Brother Guang really had no other choice. That was why he had to say it out loud. If he did not say it out loud, Brother Guang was sure that the crew-cut guy would definitely go against Yun Jian, given his personality. However, going against Yun Jian and the boss of Falcon Hall? It was fine if the crew-cut guy had to bear the consequences himself. But the problem was that he would be dragged down by the crew-cut guy as well. The words Falcon Hall's boss caused an uproar in the crowd. Yun Jian? Falcon Hall's boss? Well, what kind of joke was this? The legendary Luosha, who turned Falcon Hall into the #1 gang in Jia province in just over half a year. This little girl in front of them? Don't forget that not long ago, Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa, had also taken the #1 gang in Jia province, Leopard Pack, under her wing. Half a year ago, Falcon Hall, which was the original Dragon Head gang, was at the bottom of the Jia province's gang rankings. However, Falcon Hall's Rakshasa only spent half a year to turn Falcon Hall into the #1 gang in Jia province. When this news was first spread, it completely shocked everyone. But what did Brother Guang just say? The woman who led Falcon Hall to become the #1 gang in Jia province was actually this underage girl? How is this possible? What? How is this possible? Who is she? She's the boss of Falcon Hall. The crew cut guy's feet froze on the spot. He stared blankly at Yun Jian, who was standing not far away. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped to the ground. This sudden attack made the crew cut guy's entire body tense up. He stared at Yun Jian in front of him, not daring to take another step forward. The people around them heard Brother Guang's voice clearly, and all of them stared at Yun Jian in shock. No wonder she was so good at driving. They did not expect her to be Falcon Hall's boss. How can it be fake? I saw it with my own eyes. Brother Guang closed his eyes, then collapsed to the ground as if paralyzed. Brother Guang knew that he would not be able to escape from Yun Jian this time. He had almost pushed the brother of Falcon Hall's boss off the cliff. He had even damaged her Ferrari sports car. Brother Guang was sure that he was not far from death, just based on these 2 points. Hearing Brother Guang, a senior member of Falcon Hall, say so, everyone present gasped. Looking at the little girl before them, she was really Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa. They did not expect Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa to be so young. Chapter 948. While everyone was still in shock, Yun Jian had already walked up to Brother Guang and the gang. You guys know Falcon Hall's rules as well, Yun Jian said, her meaning clear. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Brother Guang knew that he was done for. Based on the way Yun Jian dealt with people back then, he knew that they were probably doomed this time. Back then, Flying Passage's boss had sent a sniper to injure Su Zetian severely, forcing him to the brink of death. After Yun Jian rescued Su Zetian by force, she went to Flying Passage alone without a word, and annihilated the entire gang. With this incident alone, Brother Guang knew that he was doomed this time. Falcon Hall had made it clear that no one from Falcon Hall was allowed to use Falcon Hall's name to stir up trouble outside. However, Brother Guang had done this many times. He had even used Falcon Hall's name to coerce many beautiful girls and women. He had done such things many times. Back then, Brother Guang thought that it would be fine as long as he took it easy and did not get caught. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would be caught red-handed by his own gang's boss. I know. Brother Guang was trembling in fear, but he still spoke up fearfully under Yun Jian's pressure. Those who violate Falcon Hall's rules, those who treat Falcon Hall's rules as child's play, have their hands crippled and are expelled from the gang. Yun Jian's eyes flickered, looking like a born king. Her words and actions were like nightmares from hell. Brother Guang pounced to Yun Jian again and knelt down. Sister Jian, please give me another chance. No, please don't cripple my hands. I'll leave Falcon Hall. If his hands were crippled, he would really be a cripple. Brother Guang knew that his expulsion from Falcon Hall was inevitable. This is just one of the reasons. We haven't settled our personal score yet. Yun Jian evaded Brother Guang's kneeling without a trace, her icy expression showing no intention of going easy on him. Personal score? Brother Guang shuddered. Yun Jian's voice rang again with a chilling tone. You crashed into my brother's Ferrari on purpose just now, causing its brakes to malfunction, and he almost lost his life. Also, that scrapped Ferrari sports car is mine. How do you think we should settle this debt? Yun Jian's words made everyone's eyes widen in fear. What? The Ferrari's brakes did not malfunction, but someone else did it? While everyone was doubting the truth of the matter, Brother Guang knelt on the floor and kowtowed to Yun Jian. Sister Jian, I'm wrong. Please let me go, Sister Jian. I won't do it again. Brother Guang, a grown man, was actually kowtowing to Yun Jian. Who was Yun Jian? The boss of the province's top boss? She was in the underworld. Even if Yun Jian killed Brother Guang, she would be safe and sound, let alone crippling him. With what he did just now, it would be strange if Yun Jian did not kill him. Let you go? Sure. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking at Brother Guang in front of her. Once he heard Yun Jian say that she could let him go, Brother Guang looked up and gulped before his dark eyes stared at Yun Jian. Really? Before Brother Guang could finish, he was cut off by Yun Jian. Cripple your own hands and I'll let you go. Cripple my own hands? Why did this sentence come out of this underage girl's mouth so easily and freely? Everyone present was shocked. Bang! Yin Jian suddenly threw something at Brother Guang. When everyone saw what it was, they froze in shock. A butterfly knife. Chapter 949. Brother Guang watched as Yin Jian tossed a butterfly knife in front of him, his whole body trembling in fear. Jian, Brother Guang dared not cripple his own hand. He did not have the courage to do so, so he begged for mercy. Yin Jian cut him short and hollered, "Do it!" Brother Guang shuddered. Just as Brother Guang was shivering, Yin Jian suddenly stepped on the butterfly knife on the ground and kicked it away. The butterfly knife bounced up from the ground due to the force of her foot. Yin Jian flipped her hand and caught the butterfly knife that had bounced up from the ground. "Since you're not doing it, I'll help you." Yin Jian smirked sinisterly and held the butterfly knife in a reverse grip, taking a step closer to Brother Guang. "Don't know I'm wrong." Brother Guang shifted from kneeling to sitting on the ground and shifted his buttocks backward. As he retreated, Brother Guang's body trembled even more. The moment Yin Jian raised her hand, Brother Guang shut his eyes in fear. Huff huff. The night breeze was still blowing. The people around them dared not make a sound. Hence, the sound of the night breeze became louder. As the wind blew, Brother Guang did not feel the butterfly knife in Yin Jian's hand falling toward him. When he opened his eyes, he saw Yin Jian walking away. He sucked in a breath and saw Yin Jian and Guxian walking away. Yin Jian was still holding a phone in her hand and was telling Duan Lei about the incident. Of course, Yin Jian would not let Brother Guang go so easily, but she did not plan to do it herself because it was dirty. When Brother Guang relaxed, he heard Yin Jian calling Duan Lei from afar. When he heard himself mentioned, Brother Guang's ears perked up, but he only heard 3 words from Yin Jian. "Torture him to death." Brother Guang fainted on the spot upon hearing Yin Jian's words. At this time, Yin Jian had already arrived in front of the owner of the Maybach sports car that she had just snatched. This Maybach sports car was used by Yin Jian to rescue Guxian, and the car door was damaged in many places. Yin Jian compensated the car owner with a lot of money. She also sent her Ferrari sports car to the original Ferrari company for repair. In her previous life, every time Yin Jian damaged her car, she would bring it to a Ferrari sports car company to be repaired. Yin Jian's Ferrari had to be repaired for a period of time. So in the meantime, Yin Jian could only drive Ciyi's Lamborghini. Yin Jian, on the other hand, did not mind. She could easily get Ciyi's Lamborghini if she wanted to. Yin Jian contacted the original company of the Ferrari sports car and told them the address. Someone would come to pick it up. It could be considered a one-stop service. By the time Yin Jian was done, it was already very late. Guxian felt sorry for Yin Jian. She lent her Ferrari sports car to him, and he even damaged it. However, Guxian was relieved when he saw Yin Jian's nonchalant look. "Sister, are you really the boss of Falcon Hall?" Guxian had been holding back for a long time, but he finally asked the question. "Yes." Yin Jian did not hide it at all. "Does Dad know about this?" Guxian was silent for a moment before he asked. "No." Yin Jian's answer was very straightforward. "Then it's better not to let Dad know about this. Besides, you're still in the military." Guxian paused for a moment before he continued. "Also, don't let anyone with ulterior motives know about this." Chapter 950. Guxian's concern warmed Yin Jian's heart. Guxian and Yin Yi had different feelings. Yin Yi was the kind of person who would talk about her concern all the time, while Guxian was the kind of person who would never admit that he cared about you. However, Guxian was the kind of person who would never admit that he cared about you. Yet the more he cared about you, the more he cared about you. Yin Jian knew that Guxian was afraid that if her identity as the boss of Falcon Hall was exposed, it would affect her reputation in the military. After all, she was the boss of Falcon Hall. Even though Falcon Hall, which she managed, never allowed its members to bully the weak, others would still think that she was a gangster. This gave off a different feeling. However, Yin Jian was not afraid that Gu Junjian would find out about her identity as the boss of Falcon Hall. After all, Gu Junjian already knew that she was the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, including the advanced special forces. Of course, this group of people kept their mouths shut. This made Yunjian feel relieved. Guxian's two buddies also followed Guxian home. Yunjian followed Guxian to Gu Yunjian's house first. Although it was already very late, when Yunjian and Guxian stepped into Gu Yunjian's house, they saw Qin Yiru running into the kitchen to bring out 4 bowls of mung bean soup for her, Guxian, and the two buddies of Guxian. You guys are finally back. I've kept this mung bean soup warm in the pot. It's still warm. Eat it while it's hot and go to bed early. You guys are still growing, so take care of your health. As Qin Yiru spoke, she made 2 trips to the kitchen to bring out the 4 bowls of mung bean soup and place them on the long table in the living room. Okay. Yunjian nodded. Thus, the 4 of them walked over to take the mung bean soup. When Guxian drank the mung bean soup, Yunjian saw an obvious teardrop drop from the corner of his eye, which then fell into the bowl. Guxian had never experienced maternal love. However, he never thought that he would experience it from Qin Yiru. Guxian's friends all told him that his stepmother was a venomous woman. She would definitely be two-faced in front of Gu Junjian. She would even pretend to treat him well in front of Gu Junjian. However, Qin Yiru gave him a different feeling. Guxian did not know why he was so certain that Qin Yiru treated him differently. Perhaps it was because Qin Yiru treated him the same way in front of Gu Junjian? The feeling that Qin Yiru gave people was that kind of mild kindness. Although this feeling was ordinary, it gave people a feeling of happiness and warmth. Thus Guxian cried. However, he hid it very well. Other than Yunjian, no one else saw his tears. At this moment, Guxian made up his mind. He would use his heart to repay Qin Yiru. From now on, Qin Yiru was his mother, Yunjian was his sister, and Yunyi was his brother. They were a family. After eating the mung bean soup and returning to Dong Ruan's house, Yunjian fell asleep immediately. Ce had not returned from an Hun group yet. Although the night without Ce was less warm, Yunjian could still sleep. The next day, after returning home from her morning exercise with Zhang Xiaofeng and Yunyi, Yunjian changed into a clean set of clothes and went to meet Ning Lanlan at the usual place. She did not forget that she had promised to go to the zoo. Yunjian saw Ning Lanlan standing there from afar. At this moment, there were a few young men and women standing beside Ning Lanlan. However, it was not hard to tell that these young men and women were Ning Lanlan's friends. Seeing Yunjian walk over, Ning Lanlan grabbed Yunjian's hand and ran to the side almost at the same time. Then she whispered to Yunjian. Chapter 951. Ahem. Yunjian coughed softly when she heard Ning Lanlan's words. However, before Yunjian could say anything, another girl called out to Ning Lanlan. Lanlan, what are you whispering to this beautiful big sister behind my back? Just as she said that, a sweet-looking girl with big sparkling eyes walked over from the side. The girl put her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder and looked at Yunjian with a grin. Hi, I'm an Mo Lanlan's good friend from school. That's my younger sister in Nua. She's a little shy, don't mind her. The girl started introducing herself excitedly with her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder. In the end, the girl who called herself an Mo even pointed at a young lady who looked exactly like an Mo. Yunjian looked over. Her gaze stopped on an Mo and paused for a moment before stopping at a Nua, who looked a little shy not far away. Yunjian raised her brow. It was rare for her to be in the mood. She curled her lips and asked despite knowing the answer. Twins? An Mo and a Nua's looks could be said to be carved from the same mold. Ordinary people would not be able to tell them apart at all. However, Yunjian could tell an Mo and a Nua apart with just a glance. Yunjian was also a top-notch investigator. She could even recognize Peter with his superb disguise back then. It was a piece of cake for her to tell the twins apart. The older sister, an Mo, was obviously more active. When she heard Yunjian, she put her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder and said to Yunjian, Yeah, I'm the older sister and she's the younger sister. Hee, what's your name, big sis? And Mo's outspoken personality was rather straightforward. Yunjian, Yunjian said with pursed lips. Yunjian. An Mo repeated Yunjian's words. Then she looked delighted. Your name is so nice. Anemo stuck her tongue out playfully as she spoke. Is everyone here? Let's get ready to go. At this moment, a gentle-looking boy wearing a pair of rectangular glasses walked over from the side. The boy's looks were not bad, and his skin was moderate. All right, Big Ice Cube, we got it. Anemo stuck out her tongue and teased the boy. After Anemo was done complaining, she turned around and introduced him to Yunjian. His name is Hani-chen. He's the class monitor of our class. Don't be fooled by his gentle and elegant appearance. He's famous for having no sense of direction in our class. Haha, last time, he even got lost in the park. I really admire him. Anemo grumbled. Yunjian responded with a smile. Ning Lanlan's friends were all her classmates. Ning Lanlan said that she and her good friends often gathered together to go on spring excursions to all kinds of places. When Ning Lanlan borrowed salt from Qin Yiru at the Nilong River barbecue, she had gone with an Mo and the others. At this moment, an Mo and the others welcomed Yunjian. Moreover, when they found out that Ning Lanlan and Yunjian got to know each other because of that one time they borrowed salt, an Mo and the others were dumbfounded. An Mo even exaggerated that she would go to the Nilong River barbecue next time to borrow salt to bring a good friend back. Naturally, an Mo was only joking. Just as everyone was about to leave, a shout came. Lan Lan. Hearing that the voice was calling Ning Lan turned around. However, when she turned around and saw the person before her, Ning Lan lowered her head shyly and said, Senior, Jiming? Chapter 952. Yunjian did not like being stared at like that. She frowned and walked away discreetly. Shan Zihao had not seen Yunjian for a while since the foreign language competition at Foreign Languages High School. Now that he saw her, he was overjoyed. Lan Lan. Xiao Jiming merely smiled at Ning Lan. Hi Yunjian. Long time no see. Seeing Yunjian walk away discreetly, Shan Zihao's heart was itching. Hence, he walked over to greet Yunjian. He was getting more and more interested in Yunjian. He had been attracted to Yunjian ever since he saw her in school the last time. There was no girl who would not be attracted to his handsome face. This was the reason why Shan Zihao was so interested in Yunjian. Also, Yunjian gave him the feeling that she was too mysterious. When he was talking to Peter, the words that seemed to be unintelligible were attracting his attention. Shan Zihao was sure that he had never paid so much attention to a girl before. Hence, when he saw Yunjian walking away, he rushed up to greet her. Oh yeah, why are you guys here? Ning Lanlan lifted her head slightly and glanced at Xiao Jiming. She put away her shy gaze and asked. Zihao dragged me here. He said we're going out to have fun. I didn't expect to see you guys here. Xiao Jiming reached out to touch his head. He seemed to be confused about the situation. Although Ning Lanlan liked Xiao Jiming a lot, she could not bring herself to like Shan Zihao. Especially when Shan Zihao seemed to be sizing up Yunjian, Ning Lanlan disliked him even more. Ever since Ning Lanlan saw Ce the last time, she felt that Ce and Yunjian were a perfect match. That feeling of wanting to bring the two of them together had completely sprouted. Perhaps Ning Lanlan was different from other girls. If other girls saw Ce, they would probably fight to get into Ce's good books. However, Ning Lanlan was different. Her heart was completely devoted to her senior Jiming. No matter how outstanding other men were, she did not want them. However, when she saw Ce and Yunjian standing together that night, she felt that they were a perfect match. That was why Ning Lanlan wanted to matchmake them. Because at first glance, Yunjian was the kind of person who didn't get aroused easily. How did you know we were here? Ning Lanlan shifted her attention to Shan Zihao. She did not hold back when she said those words. It was especially so when Shan Zihao's gaze shifted to Yunjian. However, Ning Lanlan stood in front of Yunjian, preventing Shan Zihao from looking at her. Although Ning Lanlan liked Xiao Jiming, she didn't like seeing Shan Zihao. Aren't we just passing by? Hee. As he spoke, Shan Zihao unconsciously shifted his gaze to Yunjian. Of course, it was impossible that they were just passing by. He knew someone in Ning Lanlan's group. That person was neither Hani-chen, nor the twins in Mo and in Nua. I said so. So what? Didn't you guys say we can't call anyone? At this moment, a very arrogant girl with her head held high and a little makeup on her face said in an annoyed tone. As she spoke, the girl even snorted. Ning Lan Lan, you're the only one allowed to call your friends over? Can't I bring my own friends? The friend that the girl was referring to was probably Shan Zihao. The people who came today were all Ning Lanlan's classmates. There were about a dozen of them. Judging by the girl's tone, she must not be on good terms with Ning Lan Lan. Chapter 953. As a matter of fact, the girl named Wan Xiao was very arrogant in class. Judging by her appearance alone, Wan Xiao had a lot of makeup on her face. It was obvious that she was a hooligan. That was the truth. Wan Xiao was a hooligan. Otherwise, how could she know Shan Zihao from the high school when she was just a junior high student? Alright, let's stop talking. I think we should hurry to the zoo. I heard that the entrance fee for the zoo isn't cheap. Once we go in, we must play from morning to night and come out when it's closed. That's not a loss at all. An emo stepped up to speak up when she saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse. An emo was not acquainted with the girl named Wan Xiao. Each trip was organized by their class monitor, Hani Chen. Of course, most of the students who came out to play were those who were closer to Ning Lan Lan and an MO. Initially, Wan Xiao was not going to come along, but for some reason, she suddenly told their class monitor that she wanted to come along. Hani Chen could not possibly reject her. He was the class monitor, and he was the one who organized the students to go out on their own during the weekend. If he rejected Wan Xiao alone, would it not be too obvious that he was being ostracized? Therefore, no matter how much everyone disliked Wan Xiao, they could only think of ignoring her when they came out to play. Therefore, from the very beginning, Wan Xiao was alone and had no friends. Ning Lan Lan wanted to scold Wan Xiao back, but since an MO had spoken, she had no choice but to swallow her anger. Jian, let's go. Ignore some shameless people, humph. Ning Lan Lan scoffed softly and pulled Jian away. Xiao Jiming, who was standing on the spot, looked at Ning Lanlan's angry face and smiled faintly. He had always treated Ning Lan Lan as his younger sister, so he usually took care of her. The meeting spot was not far from the zoo, so Jian and her friends arrived in no time. There was still some distance to the zoo's entrance. Jian and her friends were still moving forward. Ning Lan Lan was holding Jian's hand and pouting her cheeks. She looked like she was really angry about what had happened earlier. The zoo was located in the suburbs near the mountains. Just as they passed by the foot of the mountain, Jian heard a very soft conversation nearby. What the F***CK? The ticket to that D***MN zoo is so expensive. I'm not buying a ticket to go in. Isn't this cheating us of our money? Exactly. I heard that if we follow this mountain path, we can enter the zoo from the back of the mountain. Let's go from here. There's such a thing. Haha, hurry up. Up to this point, it was all male voices. Jian frowned slightly. Then a weak female voice said, "Don't be like this. It's wrong to cheat. Get lost. Get lost. What do you know? If you want to leave, then come with us. If you don't want to leave, then go buy your own ticket." You have too much money and nowhere to spend it. We don't have as much money as you do, huh? A furious male voice rang, accompanied by the sound of shoving. However, after a while a girl ran out crying. This girl had 2 ponytails and looked like a pear blossom in the rain. She looked delicate and weak. Chapter 954. The girl ran very fast with her eyes closed. When she bumped into Ning Lan Lan did not feel any pain. The girl's body was soft like a ball of soft cotton. The girl only reacted when she bumped into Ning Lan Lan. She lifted her head to look at Ning Lan Lan and rubbed her eyes. She said in fear, "I am sorry." Ning Lan Lan was a warm-hearted person. When she saw the girl's tear-stained face, she replied generously, "Don't worry, I'm sorry. It's fine. It's just a little impact. I can still take it." As she spoke, Ning Lan Lan was curious why the girl was crying like that. As a girl, Ning Lan Lan looked at her worriedly. She pursed her lips and asked after a while, "What's wrong?" Do you need me to help you? I'm fine. Thank you. The girl wiped her tears. Then she sobbed for a while and stopped. The girl took 2 shaky steps towards the zoo. Her thin and frail body looked like she was about to fall. Even Ning Lanlan felt sorry for her. She paused for a while. In the end, she could not help but ask, "Hey, are you going to the zoo too?" In truth, Ning Lanlan and the rest had heard the conversation before the girl rushed out from the side. Based on the girl's conversation with the other boys, they could guess what had happened to the girl. Although they had no idea what the girl's relationship with the boys was, they could guess based on the conversation earlier. The boys probably did not want to buy tickets to the zoo and wanted to play in the zoo. The girl felt that it was inappropriate, so she said it out loud. Everyone was well aware of the voices of the boys insulting the girls just now. Faced with Ning Lanlan's friendliness, the girl nodded in the end. Ning Lanlan was quite kind. Seeing that the girl was easy to get along with, she asked tentatively, "We're going to the zoo too. Do you want to come with us?" As she spoke, Ning Lanlan turned to glance at Yun Jian and winked at Yun Jian. "Me." The girl was surprised that Ning Lanlan would invite her. However, she reacted quickly. She pointed at herself carefully and asked, "Can I?" "Sure," Ning Lanlan said with a smile. "Thank you." The girl's mood improved slightly. Yun Jian stood aside and listened to the girl introduce herself to Ning Lanlan. Ning Lanlan introduced herself, and Yun Jian as well. "Hello, you're so beautiful." The girl looked at Yun Jian and added a sentence from the bottom of her heart. Thank you." Yun Jian wiped her red lips and replied generously. Wan Xiao, who was standing at the side, reached out to grab the corner of her clothes. Her expression was ferocious, especially when she saw Shan Zihao looking at Yun Jian with infatuation all the way. She was even more furious. One had to admit that Ning Lanlan was good at making friends. Soon, the girl became familiar with Ning Lanlan. The girl's name was Tang Chi Xian, and she was in a relationship with the boy who had just yelled at her to get lost. However, as time passed, Tang Qixuan found that she had more and more disputes with her boyfriend. Chapter 955. Alright, we can buy tickets and go in now. We've been dawdling here for so long. Let's talk about it after we're in the zoo. A ticket costs 35 yuan. Let's fight to stay in the zoo for as long as we can, haha. An emo stood up and said with a grin. The group stopped hesitating when they heard what an emo said. The price of a ticket to the zoo in 1999 was still considered reasonable. The standard of consumption back then was generally low. A 35 yuan ticket to the zoo was considered expensive in the low-income era of 1999. 35 yuan could be compared to 200 to 300 yuan now. That was why the boys just now wanted to enter the zoo from the back of the mountain. Phew, we're finally in. Ning Lanlan said with a chuckle after they paid for their tickets and entered the zoo. What animal are we going to see next? An emo interjected at this moment. Asked Jianjian. Jianjian, what animal do you want to see first? Ning Lanlan blinked and turned to look at Yun Jian, asking Yun Jian. Pandas, Yun Jian answered with a press of lips. Pandas? Haha, great, I like it. Ning Lanlan said, clapping her hands happily. Then she said excitedly. Pandas are our country's first-class protected animals, and I've seen them in pictures before. They're super cute. Ning Lanlan put her hands down and put on a yearning expression. In fact, Ning Lanlan liked pandas very much too. Let's go. Yun Jian grinned. About half an hour later, Yun Jian and her friends went around the zoo. Ning Lanlan and the others went to look for the toilet after taking a stroll. When Ning Lanlan and her friends went to the washroom, only Yun Jian and a handful of her classmates were left standing. Yun Jian waited a distance away from the washroom. Yun Jian, why are you ignoring me? Shan Zihao came over just as Yun Jian was leaning against a willow tree with her arms crossed. Shan Zihao's question sounded like he was denouncing her. Yun Jian's long legs moved slightly. She leaned lazily against the tree and didn't even raise her head. She even closed her eyes. Yun Jian sneered lazily. Why should I care about you? These plain words touched Shan Zihao's heart. Once or twice, Shan Zihao thought that Yun Jian was playing hard to get with him. But he, Shan Zihao, had never failed to get a girl. Shan Zihao saw that Yun Jian was leaning against the willow tree lazily with her eyes closed, when everyone else went to the washroom. Her rosy lips looked especially beautiful under the morning sun. Shan Zihao took a deep breath. Yun Jian, I like you. As Shan Zihao spoke, he strode towards Yun Jian and reached out his hand, wanting to kiss Yun Jian forcefully. Shan Zihao felt that many girls wouldn't be able to stand his posture, especially those girls who had been kissed by him. Which one of them wasn't infatuated with him? He, Shan Zihao, didn't believe it. However, before Shan Zihao's hand could touch Yun Jian seemed to be conscious with her eyes closed. She turned around and dodged Shan Zihao's lecherous hand. Shan Zihao didn't expect Yun Jian to be able to dodge so easily with her eyes closed. By the time he reacted, he had already exerted his entire body's weight and crashed into the willow tree. With a loud bang, Shan Zihao's entire body crashed into the willow tree. He was still shocked that Yun Jian could dodge so quickly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.